Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world. Pull up a chair. It's time to get down to the business. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black. And I am here tonight with a whole group of people here. So without further ado, I've got Liz. Welcome back. I have newcomer Amber. Welcome, Jasmine. Welcome. There's a vagrant in the room. Tina. Hello, Tina. I almost messed up about that there. Hello, Tina. So glad to have Liz, Amber, and Jasmine. Tina, turn off your phone's ringer, by the way. That is you sitting up there buzzing like you do every week. Everybody else has their life together as usual except you, by the way. Get ready for the smoke alarm to start chirping at any moment. All right, as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, so on tonight's program, obviously the talk of the town has been about the unfortunate events. The happy marriage between none other than Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck, and boy, just goes to show you that there's a sucker born every minute, and they usually wait around for a couple of decades here. Now, some folks may not understand this, and some of the ladies may not like that, but there's a whole issue about this. Tonight's program is about what happens when you are a man's last choice. What happens when that is you? I'm sorry, when you're a woman's last choice, but we'll get into when you're a person's last choice, because there's also some others that come to this dynamic here as well. So before I get started on this, I wanted to go ahead and ask the ladies about this. Do you think this is a good look? Do you see this the way that most men see this? Most men see this as she was with this man 20 years ago. She had every opportunity to be with him then. He had substance abuse issues then. He has substance abuse issues now. He is essentially the same man he was when she said she couldn't be with him, only he's older, probably richer, but literally everything else about him is exactly the same. Why is she taking him up on this now? Let me go ahead and start with Amber.
So I think my opinion about Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck getting back together, I definitely think that it's probably always been there. I think it's one of those situations or couples that never really died off. To say, like, I think that there was always something there. And then now just being able to rekindle that. So I think, yeah, maybe the fact that he's richer, but at the same time, Jennifer Lopez has her own money, her own stance. Like, she does everything on her own. So I think it is literally them just rekindling what they left off.
So do you think it's genuine?
I do think it's genuine, because I think, like, she was with Mark Anthony, a man who was like her husband for like 10 years. She had kids with him and everything, and she still went back to Ben Affleck. So there's definitely something there.
All right, Jasmine, do you think this is sincere? Do you think this is a good look for him? What do you think?
Well, honestly, I think that she's with all these different men, she have a problem within herself. The reason why the relationship didn't last with all the other men. So she feel like her only other option was men. And I feel like they need to seek counsel because they both have an issue. I feel like that's why she went back to him, because they both have problems and they kind of, have something in common. And they feel like they can help each other work on it.
Is that actually realistic?
It is.
So two folks who are needy and broken, you think they can get together and help each other?
I feel like they think that nobody else can, because they have all these problems. So they might as well be together. And like she said, I feel like it's still something there. But I also feel like they are both broken, so they feel like they can help each other get together. But I think they need counseling. That's what I think. They're already married now, but I feel like they need counseling. They both need counseling. Nobody else is going to deal with that. He done been through all these different men. He was with this other lady. Before I keep going, I'm not a big fan of Ben or J Lo, but I have seen in the blogs, and I honestly think that they're too much for all these other people that they've been dealing with. I think that they should just be together, and they may have talked about it and felt like, okay, we're gonna work this out and seek counseling. That's honestly what I think. That's my opinion.
Well, if they were going to do that, they've been rather slow about it here. And Liz, now, do you think that this is a good look? Do you think this is sincere? Do you think this is in his best interests?
So I definitely think it's a good look, and I do think it's sincere. And the reason why is because they did it very quietly. They did not do one of these loud and, the press is all over at the wedding and rumors of the wedding. I mean, they kind of just quietly did it. Small ceremony, really private. That to me speaks to the sincerity of it, right? Because, it's not for clout. They didn't do it for clout. If they did it for clout, it would be much more, I think, in the press. Prior to it happening, after it happened, pictures everywhere. We still haven't really even seen pictures of what went down, when it went down. We've seen little snaps of her in her dress and her makeup. That's pretty much it, So that's kind of, for me, what makes it come across as genuine. And I also believe that, J-Lo has options. Okay. She has options. She did not settle here. This is someone she chose to be with. And some people are in love with being in love. I think that she's one of those people, to speak to some of her past relationships. We all know, she's no stranger to the marriage altar. But I think that it's a good thing. There's probably familiarity there as well. And sometimes you want to be with someone that you're comfortable with. You want to be with someone who you don't have to break down the family dynamics all over again with them, when you go visit, your mom's side of the family or whatever, what have you, And so because Ben kind of has some of that background, if you will, because he was a part of her life, I think that brings that about comfortability, that they can have with each other and that, she can have with him. So I think it's a great look for him. Personally, like, when's the last time he was ever even in the news? I think that he's like gaining some more relevancy, honestly.
Okay. Well, the U.S. Marshals just showed up at Tina's house, so she's going to be a little occupied here for a little bit. So if they release her, I'll see about letting her back in. In the meantime here, Liz, I gotta ask you about that. Ma'am,
Sir.
Going back to an ex, when a woman has a choice of men, particularly when she has a number of men available to her,
right?
You all don't go back to your exes unless it didn't work out. Unless you went into the sexual marketplace, you went into the dating pool and there were sharks up in there. You all don't go back to exes. That's not the way women operate. You keep moving up. The only reason you move backwards is because you can't go any further up again. Can we be honest about that?
I think it varies. I think for the most part, in general, it's sort of maybe taboo to double back, as you say, and that may not typically be something that we want to do. But, in theory, we level up, right, with every man that we date, but maybe we don't. Maybe personality wise, we didn't really level up. Or, when you really get to know the person on paper, yes, he's more qualified than the last, but the chemistry isn't there, or the familiarity isn't there. You're not comfortable with them. Something happened, transpired. You saw another side of them that you didn't like. You thought you could trust them. He turned out to be a dog. I mean, that doesn't mean that every next man is a level up. You would hope, you would want that to be the case, but that's not always the case. And I think, with this, in this situation, she's lived, right? She's had lots of experiences that we've all seen. Some we know about, some we don't. So I think that she is more than capable of making a sound decision with regards to if someone from her past is better suited for her, so to speak, versus someone that is from her recent future, or from her recent present, I should say, like maybe like A-Rod. They were engaged, it didn't work out.
Amber, you all don't go backwards, ma'am. Can we be honest about that? I mean, do you all really go backwards to a guy you already had, especially if you know nothing in his life has changed except maybe his paper is a little bit better. But if character-wise, he is the exact same person that you left, why would you end up with him again except that you run out of options?
I don't think that's J-Lo's problem. I don't think that she doesn't have options. I think it's that complete opposite. I think J-Lo has plenty of options. There's plenty of men that would be with J-Lo. I think in this case, I think there was definitely something still there, lingering from the years. Just from understanding, like, a lot of the reasons why they had broken up, it was other issues. Like, it could have been personality-wise. It could have been many things. But they were younger then. They're older now. They have gone through more things. They have settled in other situations. They, can maybe, I'm hoping that at this point of their lives, they're able to really talk through their situations, get through their situations, but also, like, 20 years old, like 20 years ago, J-Lo is not the same J-Lo now, and it's not the same Ben Affleck now. Yeah, they may be in some issues going through some of the same maybe issues in the sense of, like, you guys were saying, like, drugs and things, but I also think that they're older, they're wiser, and I think that they're, in a sense of me, wants to believe and wants to give J-Lo the benefit of the doubt that she made the right decision moving forward. Like, breaking it off with A-Rod, obviously it wasn't a thing, right? Even though A-Rod says, he tends to say, like, oh, everything was great, it just didn't work. Obviously things didn't work, that they're not together, but I do have to give J-Lo the benefit of the doubt that she made the right choice.
And Jasmine.
I just feel like they actually loved each other and they understand each other versus all the other men J-Lo been with. They may have not understood her, or she might not have been comfortable with them. They may be comfortable with each other and understand each other and feel like they can work through all of that. That's what I feel like.
But do you ever go back to an ex, Jasmine, if you have a better option? Unless you isn't going back to your ex a concession that you've run out of options?
I don't think that she ran out of options. I just feel like they understand each other.
She's comfortable there.
Yeah,
but they didn't understand each other before Robert. They didn't understand each other before Alex Rodriguez let her go. They didn't understand each other before then.
We don't know that though.
Yes, we do.
We don't know that because that wasn't spoken about. We don't know that.
Yes, we do. Alex Rodriguez got the little blonde chick, and next thing you know, him and Jennifer are not together anymore. So yeah, when she thought she was the only one with Alex, or she had a shot with him, everything was fine. Once she doesn't have access to Alex anymore, next thing you know, Ben is next up. After 20 years, she's been with Mark Anthony, backup singers, various dancers, Alex Rodriguez. It's not like she wasn't throwing her line at literally anything she could get.
Well, honestly, the same way they got married and nobody knew, they could have been messing with each other the whole time and we didn't know anything. And just felt like, okay, we're going to stop doing the behind the scenes and go ahead on and get married and be with each other.
He was married to Jennifer Garner and he's been dealing with his issues. So that's kind of remote there. I will say one thing, ladies, how many of you, if you had a choice between Ben Affleck and Alex Rodriguez, which one, if you had to roll the dice on one of them, which one would you rather be with?
A-Rod.
I'm not a fan of him, so I really can't say.
What did he ever do? What did he ever do you?
I'm not a fan of him to vote on him.
Thank you. All right, Liz. I know you're kind of prejudiced, but try to keep it.
Well, I don't know. I would say I don't know that I would go with Ben, but it wouldn't be A-Rod either. I'm not a fan of his either, and that's just, I don't know that much about him, but from how he presents himself in the media, how their relationship played out, I didn't care for it.
Alex is a player in more ways than one. Obviously, at this point in his life, he's not really trying to settle down anymore. He wants to be A-Rod for the rest of his days. He's trying to be that dude for as long as he can milk it. And I suppose at this point in his life, he can. But that's going to make him incredibly valuable, but also impossible to lock down. So if you tried to get on that horse and you just couldn't ride, then next up is Ben. I'm just saying that's a huge difference to change. Like, she didn't even go back to her ex-husband. She bypassed all of them straight to Ben Affleck. Okay, let me try.
That was that's the only engagement that didn't lead to marriage. So technically, you know, she got to circle back to really complete that. Because they were only engaged and they never got married.
She's been with other men since then. Why didn't she circle back?
Yes, I was just saying she's married most other partners since that engagement, but that particular relationship didn't end in a marriage. So,
but he was the only. I mean, can we just be honest? He was the only one who's papered up. P. Diddy's not available. A-Rod's not buying. Ben is available and he's papered up.
Well, Mark Anthony's papered up.
But is he available?
Maybe not. I mean, you know, you really don't know the inner workings of these people's dating lives. You know what I mean? Like, kind of back to, I think, is it Jasmine? What she said, we don't know if they were seeing each other, dating each other, texting. You know, the relationship may have rekindled prior to us knowing about it. It could have even been prior to A-Rod moving on or being seen with someone else. It just wasn't in the press. You know, we don't know.
Well, like I say, without that being a factor, then we can only assume that was not what was going on. So unless we have evidence to the contrary, we have to assume that was not what was going on. It's just that, hey, she gave him the hey boo phone call. And by the way, that happens every day. If a female thinks you're going to be available and you're going to wait around and your options haven't improved, how many ladies listen to me right now? How many of you, can you all be honest? How many of you have given the hey boo phone call? Show of hands. By the way, Liz's camera keeps freezing up. We're going to get that Clyburn broadband off of her. But Jasmine, you know damn well you have. Go ahead and just raise your hand. Now, you know damn well you have.
I'm not going to
You have my permission to put up both hands. And Tina, you have my permission to put up both hands and both feet, or should I say all four hooves. You have my permission to go ahead and do that. So, ladies, what I'm saying here is all of you have given the hey boo phone call. Why is it that why would Jennifer be any different at 52 years old?
Because you're saying it like it's a downgrade. It doesn't always have to be a downgrade. It doesn't always mean you doubling back to something lesser. Like, you could have dated a really great guy of great caliber and then moved on to someone who looked great, but wasn't great, right? Once you got to know them, once you got a little more, like, oh, you know, yeah, he's CEO, he's this, he's that, but he's a big company.
Okay. Well,
check your reception, Liz. You were going in and out.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you keep digitizing and going in and out on that. But Tina,
sorry,
Mr. Black.
I don't even have to ask if you've made the hey boo phone call. Your whole cell phone is hey boo. So I understand. I get it. And that's why you can admit that Jennifer Lopez just made the hey boo phone call. So how can a man feel valued when he's hey boo?
Okay, Mr. Black, I'll answer that for you with just a little example, just so that we never get it twisted ever again in life. Dan Schneider, an actor, he has a daughter that made a very popular song, which I love. It's called X's and O's. And it's basically his daughter singing about all of her exes running back to her. And I think it's important to use that as an example, Mr. Black. Have I made the hey boo phone call? Maybe once, maybe twice. But I assure you I get more hey boo phone calls and text messages than I've ever delivered. And just to go back a little bit, because I wanted to respond to your original question. I'm sorry, I was pulling something out of the oven. And also to the young women here as well, in terms of Ben and Jen. Let's be clear. I've met people, met people who've met celebrities who hasn't. And let's just say Jennifer Lopez has a reputation for having a Leo personality. What's the Leo personality? It's all about me. It's all about me. Forget anyone else. I do what I want. It's all me. Okay, that's one element. The second element that I've noticed as well is that anytime there are interviews or anytime there's an expose or a documentary about J-Lo and it shows her mother, I see the mother, but I don't see a father. And anyone can correct me on this. I always see the mother. So A, either her father is not in the picture, or B, her mother runs the show. Either way, both of these can trickle down to J-Lo. She runs the show. And as you have stated several times before, which is obviously clear, no man really wants a woman that runs the show. J-Lo is beautiful. Then and now, the thing she is lacking is humility and youth. Those are two important things I feel like she's lacking when it comes to a relationship. I don't care if she's been with P. Diddy. I don't care if she's been with the president of the United States, an Arabic king. It doesn't matter. She's bounced around. In my opinion, I believe she doesn't feel like these other men, P. Diddy, A-Rod, whomever, has been good enough for her. And then now she has found herself back with Ben Affleck.
Alex Rodriguez having a side chick almost half her age. That wasn't Alex. That wasn't Alex letting her know he's got his options and she's not at the top.
Yes. I agree with you. I believe that Alex had a genuine attraction to J-Lo, but I believe after getting with J-Lo, he realized I don't need this when I can get someone half my age with half the attitude. And I believe attitude has a lot to do with it. J-Lo has that, like Ellen DeGeneres, she has that reputation for being very stuck up.
That's a bad.
Well, I just want to stick up for the Leos. I just want to say Ben Affleck is also a Leo. So they both fire signs. They both got the passion.
Drama. That only by the grace of God. Now, I don't know if Jennifer Lopez is a Leo. I said she has the Leo tendency.
She is a Leo. She's a Leo sun because I know these things.
Okay. Well,
God bless them.
Yes, okay. Miss Cleo's Psychic Network is currently on the fritz. I'll call them up here. Tina, one thing I want to ask you about here. You said that you get more "Hey Boo" phone calls than you give.
Correct.
Why do you Pepto? Okay. Why do you think that is?
Why do I think that is? That's a very good question. That kind of wanted to go back into what I wanted to say about the topic that you excluded me from because I got something out of the oven. But why do I think? I honestly, to be honest with you, that's a good question, and I don't know if I can answer that. I'm not in the mind of a man, although I do believe I do have a certain intuition into men. I don't think it's always the same reason, Mr. Black.
Okay, Liz is being mugged. Let me give her a minute there to get that together. I didn't say about the same reason. I'm asking you, why do you think that is that you are such a hot ticket that how many "Hey Boo" phone calls have you gotten? First of all, I need to quantify that. How many have you received?
Okay, well, not even necessarily that I think I'm a hot ticket, but how many "Hey Boo" phone calls have I got? Let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'll say 4.
How many of them are currently incarcerated?
Yeah, 0, Mr. Black. Really?
They're on parole. I'm glad to hear that. Moving on up here. Tina.
See how he does me here.
Well, my only thing about it here is, like I say, I think that's an impressive track record here to have because, yes, you are correct. Usually what usually happens is the females make the "Hey Boo" phone call because you all don't really double back like that unless options have run out. So to say, well, he's her preferred option, that's the problem. You all don't pass by your preferred options. You all pitch camp with your preferred options. You don't pass them by. So if she's circling back around, it's because either she's run out of options or you have elevated and changed your value.
If I may interject.
You're always interjecting.
I'll take that as a yes. So, Mr. Black, to your point, I do agree with you. For the most part, we will pitch. We will pitch a fort or put a set up camp with our preferred option. But you have to realize something, Mr. Black. We don't always know what our preferred option is in our 20s. Us as women, we don't always know that. With J-Lo, especially being who she is, it makes it even worse because she's in the spotlight and she's desired by so many that it can play with the ego. Not giving her any excuses, but I'm just being 100% honest. It can play with the ego. So with that being said, yeah, we will pitch a fork, but sometimes setting up camp with our preferred option doesn't always work out well.
You pitch a tent, not a fork. Damn it!
You can pitch a fort. You can build a fort. You can build a fort. Anyway, trying to play me. Anyway, but yeah. So, in my opinion, I would probably, if I were to choose between the three young women here, I would probably agree more with Jasmine. Two broken people. When when you're older and you know that your options are slim to none, and there is someone who understands you for who you are because maybe they share the same brokenness, or they just know and understand and they care.
Right. Then yeah. Battling at a Tina. We've heard enough here. All right, thank you very much for weighing in, man. We appreciate that. You're filibustering. Ladies, I need to remind you here, because I think there's a point that's being missed. You all don't see Jennifer Lopez the way men do. Now, you are women, and because you're women, you don't ever look at another woman the way a man does. By definition, you don't, because you can't. When you take a look at another female, you see her as a girl. You don't see a female and become sexually attracted to her. You don't see a female and think to yourself about what you can do with her body parts. You don't look at another female and think about her in that way. So when you see a woman's body, her face, her looks, it's really more like a person going through a museum. You're not someone who's going to consume it, if you will. Totally different from men. So when you have somebody like a Jennifer Lopez and she's 52 years old, and this is what you're buying, not a picture on a magazine, not a Photoshop from Instagram. This is what you're buying. On the screen in the middle there, that's J-Lo with no makeup on. That's her with nothing on.
I have a question, Mr. Black.
Okay, I'm sure you have many questions about life. Calm down. But the problem here is when you talk about Jennifer Lopez's desirability and her options in men, that in the middle on the screen, that's Jennifer Lopez. That's her. How many options does this have? In the real world, does this get a the highest paid Major League Baseball superstar in history? Does this get the biggest rap mogul in the world? Does this get the biggest star in Hollywood? Jasmine.
Honestly, not all about looks. Sometimes it's about your legs. I'm just gonna be honest. A lot of men nowadays, they don't really care about how you look behind closed doors, as long as when you leave out, you look good. And I'm sure J-Lo, she looks good every time she leaves out. Well, good enough to be in public.
Okay, P. Diddy, Alex Rodriguez, when they were no longer dealing with Jennifer Lopez, did they go get a 50-year-old, or did they go and get somebody a lot younger?
Well, he's all over the place.
Okay, everybody's on their struggle mobile tonight here, but let me go ahead and get Amber.
I just want to interject and say, like, I think that, how do you know that as women, we don't find other women attractive sexually? Because I think that's another thing, like, right? Like, if we go into sexuality, right? And like what I'm into or what I would like to see, like if I see a woman, like if I see her out in the street, let's say I can honestly say I am sexually attracted to women. So when I see other women, I can look beyond just what they look like, right? Yeah, I may not be a man and be able to like decipher what men want because I'm not a man, but I can definitely decipher like what I would want as a woman, right?
But
so
you can't desire it the same way a man does. For example, okay, let me try this a different way. When a man sees certain body parts on a female who's put together properly, if she's showing like that, we're gonna have a biological, physical reaction.
Why can't I have that same attraction?
How could you have that same reaction? Yes, tell me how. I'd like to know.
I definitely think that women that are into other women sexually have those same attractions. Like when I see J-Lo, I don't only think of J-Lo as in like what she's been able to achieve, how like what she's been able to do, but I think about her as a woman. Like she looks great. Even if she's 50 years old, she's still got it going for herself. She looks better than some of these 30, 20-year-old women. So
when she's made up or when she's not made up?
I think vice versa. I think both ways. Like if you were to see her in her documentary that she just let out about doing the Super Bowl, there was moments where she had no makeup on and she looked great. She looked amazing, right? She didn't have this big sweater on. She had her nice workout clothes.
Okay, but are you saying that you would leave your husband to be with her though?
Who knows? Why not? It's J-Lo.
Okay, but there's difference between okay, but if it wasn't J-Lo, if this was Tina Rodriguez from the block, would you still be saying the same thing?
No, because it's not J-Lo.
Thank you. So there's a difference between having an affinity for somebody's celebrity and then saying this is the type. This right here on anybody would give me the same reaction. That's what I'm saying. As men, when we see females who look a certain way or they wearing a certain thing or whatever, we're going to respond. That's why Instagram, you can become a star on Instagram. You don't have to be a Hollywood celebrity. If you're a female with the right body type, we are going to respond to that. So what you're saying is, well, if Jennifer Lopez, I could go for that. Yeah, that's girl power. If you take her and make her just the average citizen, do you still have that same reaction? As men, we're the only ones who would. We don't need celebrity to be attracted. So a female doesn't see other females the way that men do because you're not trying to do with her what men want to do with a woman. You might want to do a bunch of things. Okay, you want to penetrate another woman?
Why would I not? Like, I mean, there's many things that women can do now. Like, why would I? What makes you think that I wouldn't want, if I was to see an attractive woman that looked to par, that I saw up in the street looked to par, why would I not have that same attraction to her as a man?
But what I'm saying is you can be attracted, but you can't want to do with her what a man wants to do with her. That's
well, not in penetration, but there's other things you can do with women.
Thank you, but there's no substitute for what a man can do. There's no equivalent and there's no substitute for it. So tell me what the equivalent
there, though.
Well, tell me what the equivalent would be for a man penetrating a woman. What's the similarity? What's the equivalent to that?
I think at the end of the day, whether it's penetration or however way you have an orgasm. So like no matter what, an orgasm is an orgasm, whether it's penetration or whether it's other forms of being able to get there. I think at the end of the day, there's still this, it still comes to the same end goal, which is orgasms.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, have you ever seen a woman who was so attractive that you would literally bust somebody else over the head over her?
There has been women that are very attractive.
No. Let me say again. Have you ever seen a woman who you just met her, you just saw her somewhere, and she was so attractive to you that you were willing to get into a fist fight? You don't even know her name. You were literally willing to assault somebody over her.
Probably not.
Right. That's the difference between women and men. We can see a female who is so sexy. When we say attraction, we talking about somebody can get laid out in here to be the one who gets next to her. So I'm saying as a female, you might like chicks, but you ain't attracted to them like us because it can literally become life and death survival. You see that on the news every day. However, I think we're going to stick a pin in that one, Amber. We're going to come back to you on that one. Liz, if you would like to tell us about your girl experiences, this would be a great time to go ahead and weigh in on that as well, by the way. Please share.
I don't have anything on that topic to share, but what was the original question?
Well, in the case of, does that look on Jennifer Lopez? Does the way Jennifer Lopez looks with no makeup on, the way she really looks, does that get Alex Rodriguez? Does that get a rap mogul like P. Diddy? Does that get the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the biggest star in Hollywood?
So I would like to say that, all women have had their moments without makeup. This is just one picture that you've singled out where no, it's not the best picture of her, but I've seen other pictures of her with no makeup and she looks fine, and other celebrity women, we may or may not see them without makeup. I think that everyone has that down chill look, right? When they're not in front of the cameras, when they're not doing an appearance. What I think is that in Hollywood, it's a lot easier for men to sort of go after younger women to date. They have that accessibility because they have that celebrity. But you're talking about the average 55-year-old man, he, I think, would definitely want to get with, if it's not, it doesn't have to be J-Lo, obviously, right? We're talking about average folks. A woman who is body is tight, face is right, he would definitely get with somebody who looked like that of his age. But I also feel like the average, middle-aged guy, he may not have the access or the resources to then turn around and pull a 30-year-old or a 20-year-old. He may want one, but that doesn't mean he's going to be able to get one, And so I think like when you're talking about the celebrity standards, it's a little different because they have money, they have access, they have all these things that can bring in the city girls, if you will. If we're going to go use Diddy as an example, he's rumored to be dealing with one of the city girls, they're in their 20s, I'm pretty sure, and we all know he's, if not 50, on his way there. So I think that, he has a little bit different capabilities, if you will, to get with the younger person. Same with Alex Rodriguez, but not necessarily the average guy their age. That's my take.
Right. But as the average, what I'm saying is that none of you are near this age except Tina. But if you thought you were 52 years old, would you really be like, hey, I'm equally competitive for Alex Rodriguez? Now, I'm talking about just you at the age of 52. Imagine yourself there now. I'm competitive against these 30-year-olds, 25-year-olds. I'm right there in the thick of the competition with them.
If I'm just a regular person, no. If I'm a celebrity, I might think that.
And there's the issue. That's what the point I'm making. Ladies, celebrity doesn't matter to men. That your celebrity doesn't matter to an Alex Rodriguez. He got with a chick who's got 1/3 the celebrity of Jennifer Lopez. Didn't bother him. P. Diddy, same thing. 50 Cent, same thing. You take a look at where the women they've been with, the females they're with now don't have anywhere near the celebrity of the ones they had at their peak. 50 Cent with Vivica Fox or whoever. Men don't care about women's celebrity any more than we care about a woman's income. That doesn't move us because we know we're not going to get any benefit from it. Like, how does Jennifer Lopez's, quote, celebrity help Alex Rodriguez? That doesn't help him any more than the other chick who came to him. So through a female's eyes, I can understand why you would think that. But in the real world, for a man, we don't care about your celebrity, your income, your status, because we don't get any of the benefit of it. It's cool if you got it. It's like, hey, that's great. But nobody ever walks up to Alex Rodriguez and says, hey, I know you. You're Jennifer Lopez's boyfriend. That's what it means to be a man. Here's the real thing. As men, we feel that Ben Affleck has horribly disserved himself because he's with a woman who's made it clear, you're not my first choice. She even did an interview basically saying that he was the worst that she's ever been in bed with. It doesn't get any worse than that. She's made it clear, if I had another option, I'd be with him. If I could go there, I would be there. I've come back to you because I'm 52 years old. I went through my Rolodex. I looked to see who would answer the phone. You've got the right amount of paper and you're available. Okay, he's got the paper. He's available. He can fog a mirror. Go ahead and hop in the car and I'll see if we can help you with your substance abuse issues when we get to Santa Clara. They were shopping for what, an $80 million house? Last year, I talked about this. They were shopping for, I think it was an $80 million house or some absurd sum like that. This was way before they ever talked about, before they were talking about getting married. She got, as soon as she was seen with him, we're house shopping. So ladies, I want you all to tell me exactly what do you need to see to convince you that this is about the bag? And by the way, I'm saying as adults, we should be honest enough to be able to say, hey, it's about the bag. This dude ain't got nothing going on for himself. He's probably going to drug himself out. But before he does, he can get me a good look. Why can't it be about that? Tina, I see you hailing a cab over there.
Oh, may I speak, Mr. Black?
I imagine you will.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. No, I do not believe it's about the bag. They both have their own bags. I believe it's about two broken people with no other options. Ben Affleck, who is a huge A-list actor, by the way, who broke up with Jennifer Garner. I believe that they were two opposites. I believe that he has his own issues, obviously, with substance abuse. And after being dropped very heavy by Garner, did not have a lot of options. Meanwhile, you have J-Lo, who is egotistical, self-absorbed, and on the downward spiral as in terms of her youth. And I believe these two self-absorbed, broken people found each other. I believe, and then also to your point, Mr. Black, you have said previously on more than one program that men don't see women, or when a man gets with a woman when she's young, and whether they break up or not, they don't see that woman as she is 20, 30, 40 years later. They see that woman as they were when they first met them in their youth and their prime, when they were in love with them. And I believe that is what Ben Affleck sees when he sees with J-Lo. He sees, okay, you know what? J-Lo is still single. She's willing to settle down. But not only that, I do believe he sees J-Lo from 30, 40 years ago or whatnot.
Okay, let's take it from Jennifer Lopez's standpoint. If we keep everything else about Ben Affleck the same, keep everything else equal, and yet he retires from Hollywood, his money and savings stay the same. He's a retired actor, so he doesn't have that status and shine anymore. No more films coming. Does she still marry him?
Does she still marry him? That is a very good question, because she has married below her. Well, I don't know if I would say marry, but she has been with a man below her station before.
But she didn't try to get him to marry her. So if you take everything else about Ben Affleck being equal and remove only his money.
But this is her ex. This is not a new man with money.
Take only his money away. Does she still go back to him? There you go. Amber, can you answer this one here? Let's just take only his money away from him. That's all. Everything else remains equal. Does she still do this after all these years? If Ben Affleck's money is gone, everything else is equal. He's still got his substance abuse issues. He's still struggling with his career. He's still a divorcee. He's still got kids. Does she still do this if he doesn't have his money straight like he does?
I think J-Lo herself has her own money. I don't think she needs Ben Affleck's money for anything. So I think that she probably still would go back. I think that there was still probably some unfinished business, something that they just never got to solve. But in terms of what Ben Affleck can offer J-Lo financially, J-Lo, she's doing well for herself. She doesn't need Ben Affleck's money to do any of that.
Okay, but it's not about doing well for herself. A woman doesn't feel secure if she's with a man who is not her financial leader. Would you not say that?
May I respond to Amber?
But can I say something really quick? But A-Rod wasn't either, though. If we think about what A-Rod made and what his net worth is compared to J-Lo, J-Lo was way above A-Rod's worth. So if we're looking at that in that sense, oh yeah, J-Lo makes way more, and her net worth is way higher than A-Rod's. So if we talk about finances in that sense, then what was he able to give her that she wasn't able to give herself?
I don't know.
Okay. Alex Rodriguez's net worth is over $300 million. I'm not sure if you know who Alex Rodriguez was 20 years ago when he got signed to Major League Baseball. That was the biggest contract in history. I think it was $100 million they signed him for. So this is like around the time of 9/11. That's why I remember it. Biggest contract ever. And he was a kid when he got that. He signed another contract. Was it, you all can help me out. Was it 100 million? Was it 250 million? It was some absurd number like that. And Alex has never been stupid with his money like that. He's made a bunch of investments, so he's good in that regard. I'll check into that, but I can't imagine that Jennifer Lopez is anywhere near the stratosphere.
She's up 50 million for 2022. I just checked it. Between 400 and 450 million.
I second that emotion, Liz.
I couldn't imagine she's anywhere near his stratosphere because this man
dear, whatever helps you sleep at night. But yes,
Okay.
J-Lo makes more than her male counterpart.
Well, Tina,
millions.
Perhaps I should try what you try to sleep at night. A feed bag might assist me with that. So you know what? I'll try what you use. We'll see if that helps me out in that regard there.
For 2022, A-Rod's at 350 million. So she's over 100 million at about 100 million above.
And I would just like to say, however, despite those facts, which I must say, which, maybe this will give Mr. Black, a bone. I'll give him half a point. I don't care how much money I make. I still want a man that makes more money than me. This is just me. And I feel like most women share my sentiment. Even if I do make a lot of money, I prefer a man that makes more money than me because there is a sense of security and a sense of masculinity there in the dynamic between us. So I will say that. But let the record show J-Lo does not need their money. I think especially at this particular point in her life, especially with older women, and you hear older women say it all the time, at this point in their life, they're looking for companionship, not necessarily security or money. Now, personally, in my late 30s, I find that a little sad. For a woman to be more looking for companionship than security, because that means she is well past her prime. And that does mean, okay, it almost sounds like I'll take what I can get.
Okay,
so.
What qualifies as past your prime, Tina?
Well, I'm not a man.
But you've had plenty of men tell you. So what makes a woman past her prime?
Plenty of men tell me. No, I think you're probably the only man that drove that home, Mr. Black. Past her prime, I think it varies with the woman because a woman can be coachable. Really? A woman can be coachable, I think, at various ages. And a woman can still be beautiful and viable and coachable at various ages. So I don't put a particular age on past her prime.
Okay, let me find out here. How many ladies on this panel agree with what she just said? That a woman's prime varies from one woman to another, and that even as you get older, and Tina, I'm assuming you mean older even includes over the age of 40?
Correct. My sister just got engaged at 48 years old for the first time.
Did she get engaged to A-Rod or Ben Affleck by any chance?
She got engaged to a doctorate who is a professor at the University of Georgia.
Okay, he's probably built like an egg and struggling. But here's my point here, ladies. How many of you actually believe that that's the way that works?
I definitely agree. I think that different women go through different primes in different times of their life. And in that time of their life, they can, they can glow differently. Like, I have family members who have been married for 20 years, like, have started early, got married early, had their kids early. And then after their kids and like after that empty nest syndrome, like they divorced their significant other, they go on and like they're in this prime, this sense of like wanting to find like what they want, who they want. They're more pickier. They want more things. Like, I do think that women have this sense of having a prime at different points of their life. And it may not, every woman may have it at a different age. Some may have it in their 50s. Some may have it in their 60s. Some may have it in their 40s or their 30s. So it just depends on the woman and what she's gone through and where she is in her life.
Amber, ma'am, I didn't think you were going to give me a Pepto moment. Oh, wow. I thought Tina was the only one who's going to do that. Jasmine, now we both know you trouble. So I already know what you're probably going to say here. But by the way, Jasmine, do you think a woman can hold on to her prime past her 40s?
Yes.
Why would you say that?
I'm just trying to think of me.
Okay, Struggle Mobile is doing what it does there, so I'm going to give her a moment here. Liz, there's a reason I'm asking this.
Yes, I agree with the ladies. We go through different seasons. We could call it a season of glow, a season of growth, a season of prime. I totally agree. And I think that Amber gave the best example. Like you may have some women who, have their kids early and they may not be able to focus on healthy eating and their skincare and their gym routine and all these things because they're young and they need to focus on making money and providing for the kids, if they have kids at a young age. And then now all of a sudden you're still young, right? Maybe in your early 40s and you have a kid who might be 20, 21, a young adult basically, right? But so now they're more self-sufficient. They may be off to college. They may have established themselves doing their thing. And now as a woman, you have time to invest in yourself. You have the money, the resources to invest in yourself because your child is grown and you can divert some of that, all of that extra energy, some of that extra energy into yourself. And so that may develop a prime season, as I said, for you, because now all of a sudden for the first time, I'm able to work out 5 days a week. I could never do that, as a mom when I have 3 young kids under the age of whatever age, Okay,
well, let me ask you, what are the characteristics that indicate that a woman is in her prime?
Okay, so I think that the characteristics can vary from person to person as far as like a little bit of like eye of the beholder, right? Like you may think that there's a different standard for what the characteristics should be or may be, but I think that, a woman that actually has the time, money, resources to show up for herself, right? Doing those self-care things, those self-love things. We may, build upon our self-esteem and those sort of things. And we may can do that through therapy, or we may can do that on our own, whether it's through going through the gym or whether it's through, better educating ourselves, continuing on with our schooling. Those are all things that are sort of can equivalent, if that's a word, to the level up, to the glow up, to the prime season,
Okay, so you believe that a woman's education, or should I say attendance in school, contributes to her being in her prime?
It doesn't have to be school per se, but it's bettering yourself, right? Like I have a degree, but I'm also trying to get my project management certification, my PMP, right? And so I don't need that. I'm making great money now, but I know that when I get that, that's going to take my career to yet another level. I can demand yet more money, right?
So you believe that a woman's career contributes. I didn't say it's the only thing. You believe a woman's wait a minute now. You believe a woman's career contributes in any way to her being in her prime?
Possibly. I mean, it could possibly, right? Like you could just be someone who's lucked up and you're a trust fund kid. Let's say you don't have to work, right? Your family has set you up so well you have a trust fund and you're just living off the trust fund and you're comfortable. But that doesn't take away that you don't have an opportunity to grow into your prime, or you don't have an opportunity to grow into a season of your prime, right? Be it through other means. Again, it could be through bettering yourself, through therapy, through really focusing on, okay, I'm gonna do these things to change my image, in a positive way, work out more, keep a better tabs on my cholesterol, whatever it is, sugar intake, these things. You don't always have the time, energy, money to focus on those things, but when you are able to break through and give yourself those things, that does glean a prime season.
Let me ask you something here.
It could be related to your job.
Let me ask you something here, and I'm going to come to Jasmine here in a moment. Let me ask you something. Can a woman be a senior citizen and be in her prime?
So I don't want to say.
Okay, that's a yes or no question, folks. I mean, can a woman be a senior citizen and be in her prime?
Physically, maybe not, because we know after a certain age, right, we can't do all the things that we've been necessarily able to do at a younger age, right? So if we're tying it specifically to what you can do physically,
no, I mean, but here's the thing: when I ask about what constitutes a prime, let me get this from Jasmine, because I already have another question for Amber. Jasmine, what constitutes being in your prime? What do you think constitutes being in your prime as a woman?
Knowledge, because knowledge, because maybe my younger years I might not have known what I know. Honestly, I feel like I'm in my prime now. And I feel like
Why?
because I have the knowledge that I didn't have years ago or last year. So I feel
Okay, let me find out who is the beneficiary of that knowledge.
me going through different things.
Okay, so you believe that what confirms the woman is in her prime is how she feels about herself or what she thinks she's doing for herself.
Learning yourself, going through things, failing. I feel like in order to get through something, you're gonna go through something. I feel like it's what you go through and you learn from that. I can only speak for myself. The things I've been through, I've learned from, and I'm a better person. So I feel like that's just knowledge. So I feel like I'm in my prime. Like,
Okay, so the ladies here, you all don't believe that the metric that measures whether you're in your prime is how men respond to you? You think that being in your prime is separate and that there's any element, any aspect of a woman's quote prime that is separate and apart from how men ultimately respond to her?
I feel like that's exactly what I was saying as far as knowledge. Like,
So you believe that your knowledge, separate and apart from a man, is a factor that determines you're in your prime?
because the way
When we use the words a woman's prime, that's why I asked you all, what do you think it means? How can you be in your prime and we are not solely taking into account how men respond to you? How can you define a woman's prime separate and apart from men? And I'm sure Amber was going to say the same thing. You're naming characteristics that have nothing to do at all with how a man responds to you. So we have a gynocentric definition of in your prime that men don't how men respond to you doesn't factor into this in any way. You're just in your prime as a student in school, as an employee at a job, as a person reading books at the library. I'm in my prime, sitting here at the library desk. No male input required.
Correct. Because I think that when a woman's in a prime, it's very different from a woman being in a prime with a man, right? Like there is some times where a woman can be in her prime and maybe finding that love of your life or being in a good spot in your marriage. And like, that's a prime time for a woman. That could be a part of it, but it's not what defines a woman being in her prime. And women being in her prime can also be different for different women, right? What being in my prime may look like for me is like, hey, once my kids are out of this house, I'll be in my 40s. I'll be able to travel. I'll be able to do things for myself that I've always wanted to do that I had to put on pause for raising my family. That may be my example of my prime. Other women may have a different example. Like maybe some women are waiting to get married and find that significant other, and that may be their prime when they find that person, right? Or like for another person, it may be, hey, I want to finish my master's. I want to finish my bachelor's. I want to get back into school. I want to do something for myself and achieve this. Or being in the prime is even breaking generational curses and barriers that you were used to or exposed to that you stopped, right? So like being in your prime for a woman can be different for women. Some have to do with men being involved in that prime, but many of those times for women, for me specifically, have to do with like, what am I doing for myself? What have I gone through? What have I been able to achieve despite my shortcomings, despite my setbacks, right? And so that's what I think a woman's prime is. It could be money. It could be, taking care of yourself in terms of nutrition or spa. It could be traveling the world and doing things that you never were able to do. It could be being the first person in your family to graduate college. Like there's so many different things that can define a woman's prime. It depends on that woman to define it.
Okay, well, I guess folks don't like tonight's program. I need you all to hit my likes for me here. I know you're very offended by Tina, but if you like tonight's program, make Tina upset and hit the likes for me. Ladies, the definition of prime literally means when you are at your peak, and from here on, it is either a steep descent or a slow one. But it literally means you cannot go any higher. And after this, it's all downhill from here. That's literally what prime means. By definition, reading books in the library, studying your career, by definition, those things, I mean, I guess tangentially with your career, I suppose. If the company keeps you, though, by definition, well, you've defeated that concept. So it doesn't equate. So I'm saying, what part of your life do you hit a peak at where you cannot go any higher?
I think it has to do with it could go to your emotional capabilities. It could go to your physical capabilities. It could be your sexual capabilities. All of these things are a part of your prime, not just physical appearance, although that is one of the factors, I think, as well.
Well, aside from the things that attract a man to you, what things do you hit a peak at where you cannot go any higher? Aside from the things that attract a man to you, other than that?
I would say, I mean, outside of that, I can't really think of anything, but I would think that like you could hit a peak with your physique, right?
But how do you know you've hit that peak?
Well, I'm not sure how you would know. Like,
well, you know, because your personal
in your mind, okay, if I can get down to 120 pounds and have a six pack and run a 5K, right, without needing a break, that's peak for me. That's prime.
Okay, that could be prime. Sure, that certainly could be your peak of your physical abilities. However, the benefits of that, if you subtract men from it, because a woman is never going to benefit another woman as much as a man will. That's never going to happen. Going to come back to Ambar in just a moment for that one, by the way, because I know you have some input on that one, but I'll be right back to you. I promise. Jasmine, ma'am, can you name for me a part of your life where that has nothing to do with a man, where you could peak and couldn't go any higher?
Not being able to, I do hair, so not being able to do hair no more because that's how I make my money.
Okay, well, that's a physical disability, but assuming, of course, that didn't occur. You could always make more money. You could always learn more styles. You could also always become a better stylist. You could always increase at that.
I can't do anything with hair.
Okay, well, I mean, but there's no limit to how far you could go with it. You can go with that as far as you wish to go. Assuming, of course, your hands still work and everything, nothing's going to limit you, though. The prime is defined against a man.
Me gaining a lot of weight or losing weight, because I'm already kind of small, but me gaining too much weight. My looks. That's the only thing I could think of right now.
But I also feel like you can invest in your looks, like
you sure,
even at an older age, not specifically you, Jasmine, but any woman could prolong her prime if it's based on looks and, do what she need to do to look younger, fresher. I mean, like people do it all the time.
Yeah, Botox. They have Botox. You could go lay on the table, get your body done.
But I also think that when we're talking about prime, we're talking about a peak in our lives that we hit, right? And like, so yeah, I don't necessarily think that there is like a peak that once you hit it, like you have to go back down, right? Like in a sense, I guess the definition of prime and how it's being defined, it can make it seem like, oh, there's like a hard stop and then there's a hard, like it goes down after that. But I think in the way that we're defining prime, in the way that we're talking about prime, we're trying to define prime as at a point in a woman's life where they hit this like really where they hit like this ability that they feel really good about themselves, or that they reach this milestone in their life. And so even when they reach that milestone, there's no really going down after that, right? Like it's only going up from there. There's other peaks that come up for us as women. I don't necessarily think there's a time when we hit that peak and then go back down. Like, yes, life is a roller coaster and there's ups and downs. But I think when we're talking about the prime in a woman's life, there's multiple primes at different points of our lives.
I'm sorry, Mr. Black has been abducted, so I'll go ahead and take over from here. So I think that what I want to drive home, what all of you ladies are saying, what it comes down to is a woman's self-esteem. With my experience, not just with myself, but with very close ones to me, my sister, my friends, whomever, a man can do a lot of things for a woman, make her feel good, make her feel important, this, that, and the third. But one thing a man cannot instill in a woman, and I had to learn this because I think I need to look for it myself. One thing a man cannot instill in a woman is self-esteem. And I think that's what all of you ladies are talking about, whether it's getting your education, whether it's excelling at your career, it's building self-esteem. And it's not because you're trying to impress a man with your money, but it's because you know that internally you need to be securing yourself in order for a man to even so much as notice you. And men say it all the time. They can look at a woman and see a confident, beautiful woman versus one that is broken. And getting that self-esteem, especially depending on your upbringing and other factors, is not always it's not always at the same age. So so then he wants to bring in the example of the man. As far as what does a man see as a woman being prime? Oh, it looks like Mr. Black, they returned him. I knew they wouldn't keep him long. I knew the kidnappers wouldn't keep him long. Mr. Black, are you back with us?
Yes, your kinfolk. I was able to escape the handcuffs they put me in. I'm skilled at that. I've been listening, man. I've been listening to you. I've been listening to you babble. I've been listening to you babble here about women's self-esteem as if that matters anything at all to her woman's value.
A woman's self-esteem doesn't matter when it comes to her value. Mr. Black, I don't understand how you hear yourself.
Okay, let me explain to you how I hear myself here. Let me go ahead and get the right thing up here. This thing is messing up here. Let me show you exactly why it is that that's a fallacy to think what you just said.
What?
And the reason for that is right here on your screen, because here's a bunch of females with a lot of self-esteem.
No, Lizzo is broken. You take that somewhere else, ma'am. Because a woman can build self-esteem by looking after her health. Ma'am, she does not.
Calm down, Tina. We do not talk over the host here. I know you used to stampeding people at your house. We do not do that. There's a bunch of self-esteem on that screen right there. There's a human herd of self-esteem right there on that screen. You can't tell them a damn thing. A woman's self-esteem with no connection to men and men's response to you. Your self-esteem isolated in a vacuum all by itself is absolutely useless and worthless. You cannot.
A man cannot give a woman self-esteem. A man cannot give that woman self-esteem.
But we do validate you.
There is validation there. Just like a woman can motivate a man, but she cannot give that man his drive. It is the same deal. It is the same deal when it comes to a woman's self-esteem. A woman has to be secure in herself, and yes, there are looks and there are other factors. Her health, whether she's fit. If a woman, what I'm trying to say, Mr. Black, is that the foundation is the woman's self-esteem. Because if a woman has
but what gives her self-esteem? What gives her that?
Not a man. Well, that's a good
Untrue.
question. That's a good, no. See, a woman will get up and go to the gym if she has good self-esteem. A woman will get up and take care of herself and make sure that she is the most feminine that she can be for a man if she has self-esteem. A man can validate her. A man can do a lot of things. I just said that. A man can do a lot of things for a woman, but a man cannot give a woman self-esteem. That is a woman's foundation. We are people. We are people.
Okay, here's the problem. Your self-esteem cannot exist by itself if you do not have someone to validate it, because otherwise there is no metric that you're measuring it
It's
by.
called self-esteem. The operative word is self, Mr. Black. What are you talking about?
Okay, and what is your self-esteem founded on?
Thank you. Upbringing is one of them.
No, you have to have an accomplishment to found something. What is it that you've done that has
my goodness.
Ma'am, Tina, calm down.
Yes, sir.
What is it you have done that has given you self-esteem?
Excellent. So with a woman, that can start in girlhood. It can, and you're right, it can start with accomplishments. But if it starts in girlhood, that doesn't mean it starts with a man, Mr. Black. A woman,
That's not true either. That's not true either, because what we do with you as girls, as I mentioned and tried to explain to you all last week, what we do with you as girls is prepare you for a man. So you just
I guess little girls don't need a mother.
No,
we don't need a mother. As long as we have a father, we don't need a mother.
No, the mother and the father are preparing you for a man. That's what they're preparing you for. What else is there? Answer.
I don't need a woman a girl or a woman does not need a girl or a woman needs a man, but does not need him for self-esteem.
Yes, she does.
If she oh my gosh, she does not. It's called self-esteem. What builds like you said, accomplishments build self-esteem. If a man did it for me, that is not self-esteem.
Tina,
he did it for me.
Tina, I think you made a very good point. Can we ask your man right quick what he thinks and if he agrees? All right, I'll let you go. I'll let you go get him right quick. You can go ahead and text him.
Can I? Oh, I sure will.
Ma'am, calm down. If you can't get him on camera, it didn't happen. In any case, Amber, I got to ask you this question.
I feel 50-50 about it. And the only reason why I feel 50-50 about it is because I have witnessed how having, like, for some women, not all, this is why I say 50-50, it's like some women have benefited from having like a male figure to help build the self-esteem. Now, they help build the self-esteem, but they do not give you the self-esteem, right? Like, as you said, they do validate some areas of your self-esteem once it's already established, but they do not give you that self-esteem to be able to build on. So I think that the reason why I feel 50-50 in a sense is because I also have seen, like, in just growing up with my father actively in my life, I have seen how there is things that he's done to validate my self-esteem, but he's never given me self-esteem, right? Just in the same ways, like, I have seen there's things that he may have let me down on that I feel like have hurt my self-esteem, but that not necessarily have taken my self-esteem away. Does that make sense?
Right, but self-esteem has to be rooted in something, and it has to be a result of something. Self-esteem is not a spontaneous thing. Self-esteem is something you have to build. So by definition, you have to accomplish something to get it. What is the something that you accomplish that gets it?
It depends, because for different women, it's different things.
No, for all human beings, it's the same thing. That's the problem.
No, I think
may I, Mr. Black? May I, Mr. Black, answer that question?
Feedback. The ladies are talking, so to calm down. I know you're triggered.
Am I not a lady?
Ma'am, calm down.
I mean, I think self-esteem has different pockets to it, if I must say. Like, I think that there's different things to it. There's self-esteem growing up and depending on your upbringing. I think there's self-esteem through your adolescent years and what that looks like. I think there's self-esteem as an adult. I think there's self-esteem that comes in after being a mom. I think there's self-esteem post your children being adults. I think there's different areas of self-esteem. And I think this is where self-esteem and women's peak come into play, right? Like, there's times when women hit that high area in their self-esteem where, like, they've reached all these goals, they've done all these things, and that's where self-esteem comes to play. However, I don't think that anybody can take or give self-esteem.
Once you have your foundation, it's not like the foundation is just ever expanding. You have a foundation and you build on it.
Yeah, but just like you build on it, it could be fractured, it could be hurt, it could be, broken down, right? So I think that self-esteem, it just depends on
what hurts it. What breaks it down? What hurts it?
I think what you can do to yourself as a woman. Like, there's things that we do to ourselves when we look in the mirror and we tell ourselves that we're not good enough, or that
there you go,
or things like that. We do that to ourselves. Nobody else does that to us.
Okay, let's make this a little simpler here. So it is, as I said, it is accomplishment, what you've accomplished and done, that builds self-esteem. Like an athlete, like a student in school, tying your shoes. Yes. You get confidence when you accomplish something, and it is failure that breaks down self-esteem. Even if it is only a perceived failure.
But I also want to say, like, we think about when we look at women, and we look at just women that are on the spotlight, right? And we think about what they've gone through and even their abilities. We think about, even when we think about Whitney Houston, we think about women like her, right? She was beautiful, brilliant. Like, she was able to do what she was able to do. Something in her, something that was affecting her self-esteem, allowed her to take, her life the way that she took her life. So I think when you're looking at self-esteem, it's what you look at, how you look at yourself, not what things, like, yes, things around you can contribute and can help or build or break it, but I don't necessarily think that you give somebody self-esteem. Like, I think that's up to the person to give themselves that value and to take away
self-esteem. Self-esteem, though, is impossible to build without a metric and without validation. It's not something that just comes spontaneously from you. It is something that has to be confirmed externally. Otherwise, we call that delusion. There's plenty of folk out there who, as a grown woman, there's literally nothing that breaks your self-esteem except the absence or lack of response from men.
I disagree. I don't agree with that.
Okay, if you were in a room and all the men were talking to every other female, including Tina, except you would have a volatile internal response to that.
But I can walk into a room confidently, whether they approach me or not. I feel like I'm still fine. I still feel
you say those words. You say those words, but when was the last time you had that problem? And I know you're married, but when was the last time you actually had that as a problem, Amber, that you couldn't deal with and couldn't overcome? When was that the last time that was actually a real issue in your life?
When I couldn't overcome what?
When was the last time that you had a problem getting positive male attention?
I mean, I don't think there was a time.
Thank you. And that is my point. No wonder your self-esteem is rock solid.
How do you know?
You haven't failed. You got nothing but wins under your belt.
But how do you know that my self-esteem is where it needs to be? What makes you think that I have good self-esteem? Like, what if
because
it could all be a show? It could all be just for show that I can.
Okay, let's try this a different way. As a man, I can take a look at you, and it would be different if you look like Lizzo talking about how cute you think you are, or how you don't have a problem with men approaching you or approaching men. So as a man, I am validating what you're saying. Nobody else can do that. So if you were saying it and the men were not responding in kind, that's not self-esteem, that's delusion. So the reason that you are not deluded is you've actually got men who will confirm it. You haven't failed. Neither has Liz. Neither has Jasmine. Neither has Jason. Jasmine?
So what if it was a bunch of women in the room and she walked in and nobody said anything to her?
Women don't care about the opinions of other women except to the extent that... Jasmine, I didn't finish the sentence, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Women do not care about the opinions of other women except to the extent that they can flex on other women or gain an advantage. You all don't care about the opinions of other women unless you have an advantage over them.
No, that's not the case, because sometimes I feel like I can learn from other women. I know a lot of women that feel like they can learn from me.
Who was the last woman that you learned, that you quote unquote learned something indispensable, something you could not live without from?
I don't really.
Thank you. All right, we'll just leave that there. Now, ladies, let me go ahead and give you the root of this here in case you didn't understand the concept of it, because it seems counterintuitive, but it's not. Women, while you do get around each other and you do socialize with each other, let's be very, very clear. Women compete with each other differently than the way men compete with each other. The reason why you need a man is because that is a unique attribute that you can have that other women can be without. The more valuable your man is, it's not an accomplishment for you to go to school, get your own, buy your own car, pay your own rent. That's not an accomplishment for a woman. You know what is? To be able to sit among other women and say, I don't have to pay my bills. I got someone else who does that for me. Y'all got to work. I don't. I don't have to pay for my car. I got someone else who does that for me. That's how women gain status with other women, and that's what gives you self-esteem. So the approval or disapproval of other women only registers to the extent that you don't have an advantage over them. If you got it and you know it, that's different. Now, in case you doubt, one more time, let me show you on your screen here. Would any of you walking in a room with any of the chicks, if you walked in a room full of females who look just like these chicks here on your screen, would you care if they noticed you or not? As a matter of fact, would you probably be happy if they didn't acknowledge you? Okay, you got yourself muted, Liz. You didn't notice that, so she's screaming into the wilderness.
No, I didn't really actually say anything out loud. I just mouthed it. But I personally wouldn't be celebrating that I wasn't seen or that no one came and approached me. That I would.
But if you walked in a room full of these human pachyderm and they did not acknowledge your existence, would it hurt your feelings?
Possibly. I think so. I mean, it depends on the occasion, right? Like if we're all there to meet up to discuss something.
No, ma'am. No. A random room. You go to a doctor's office, a PTA meeting, and these are the other moms at the PTA meeting, and none of them acknowledged you or looked at you or cared when you walked in. Would it hurt your feelings?
It would bother me. It would bother me. Yes.
Okay, let me try this a different way. You went to the mall to Neiman Marcus, and when you walked into the ladies' clothing section of Neiman Marcus, this group of females, all the females in there looked like these, and they looked at all the other women except you when you walked in.
I would definitely notice that, and I would be bothered by that. I don't know if my self-esteem would take a hit, but I would definitely observe and be like, well, what is going on?
Thank you.
Where's the love? I definitely notice, and I would definitely be bothered by that. You know, I would comment about it.
You would acknowledge that you were being treated differently, and you'd wonder, okay, let me try this a different way. You would acknowledge that you were treated differently, and you would start looking for quote unquote what's wrong, but you just said what you would do. I would start looking around to see if something's wrong. You know what you wouldn't do? You wouldn't go walk to the nearest mirror and start looking at yourself and say, let me see if I can figure out what's wrong. That's what you wouldn't do. In other words, as you just said, your self-esteem would not be impacted one bit because you already know you have an advantage over them. If you were worried that you didn't, then you would care what other women think.
I disagree because what we know that other women have is not all based on physical appearance like it is for men, you know, so it might be someone there who has a hookup, a connect, a coupon, whatever. I want what they have. I want to exchange information. I want to network. I want to, like Jasmine was saying, they might have some knowledge to kick to me. We may have some mutual things in common that we can help each other out with. So it's still about acceptance, and we are for women.
But it's not your femininity that does it. But it's not your femininity that will get you that.
You know, appearance wise, put it your way, there's nothing they have over me necessarily. But that, again, that's not where it starts and that's not where it ends. There's other things that we have to offer each other. And
the only thing that hurts a woman's self-esteem in the company of other women is if she feels they have an advantage over her. That's the only time a woman cares about the opinions of other women.
Physical advantage. There's other advantages.
Correct. But the real thing is, the only time, well, first of all, the most important is physical because you all get your benefits from men. Let me explain to you why, because I want to ask Amber about this. Let me get back to what I wanted to ask you. Tina, you've talked half the time here. Calm down over there. I know the wicked people are going to get back to us in a minute. Amber, as a female who, and I didn't ask, but have you ever had a girlfriend? Because you're talking like you have.
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to put words in your mouth. So as a woman who has dabbled on both sides of the fence, if you will, let me ask you something. What is the most expensive gift that your girlfriend ever bought for you?
There was no expensive gifts.
Thank you. Now, what is the most expensive gift that a man bought for you?
A very nice dinner. Very nice dinner.
That's the most expensive thing a man has ever purchased for you is a nice dinner? If you don't quit.
Yes.
Exactly. They ain't nothing. Next.
Tina, everybody's not like you. Calm down. Amber, are you telling me?
But they get it. But they get it.
Well, actually,
keep ousting me.
Tina, calm down.
Would it be
Amber, you're telling me that a man has never taken you shopping, has never bought you shoes, never bought you a dress, never taken you on vacation?
I'm not that type of girl. I'm not that type of girl.
I didn't ask what type of girl you are. I said, you tell me in your girl at 30 years old, almost because you're almost 30 years old. I'm throwing your age out there. She's almost 30. You've never had a man take you shopping or buy you something?
Yes, but not expensive. I'm not that type of girl.
Ma'am, okay, how much? I asked you what was the most expensive. It doesn't matter what it cost. How much was it?
How much was what?
How much was the most expensive gift the man ever bought you?
I want to say, so I'm kind of going back now because
You already know the answer. Just go ahead and tell us.
I've been bought a car before, so that is the most expensive gift.
Okay. Have any of your girlfriends or any female you ever dealt with bought you a tire, a spare tire, much less a car?
No.
And ladies, that is the reason that you all are more concerned about a man's opinion, why your self-esteem is impacted by what men think, and why it is you don't really care what other women think, except to the extent that Liz said, well, is there something in it for me to give me an advantage? Because men are the only place that you get any tangible benefits for your femininity. And not only do you get benefits, we bid way more. Case in point, Valentine's Day. You all don't get gifts from your girlfriends. Women don't buy each other gifts. The only place you get gifts are from men. Even if men who just met you. You never had a female that you met 2 weeks ago and she was willing to buy you something just on GP. So the benefits you get from men are not just large, they are unique. You cannot get them anywhere else. And when men decide that you are invisible to us, yeah, it crushes your self-esteem because you realize there's a physical component to it. There is no physical component to the displeasure or disapproval of other females, except to the extent if you don't have an advantage. If you got the advantage, you're not worried what they think. That's the difference. Your self-esteem cannot be hurt by other women precisely because if she doesn't have anything you want, it doesn't matter. And even if she did, you know you could get it somewhere else. You name for me one thing that another female has that you couldn't get somewhere else. All right. Now, in the case of everybody except Tina, you name one thing another female can get that you couldn't get your man to get that these other females couldn't. One thing you could get from a female that you couldn't get one of your men to get for you. Name for me one thing that another female can do for you that you wouldn't have to do it yourself. You're like, I got a man who'll do that for me.
But are we talking about money and what they can give us in terms of?
You know what? It really doesn't matter.
Or are we talking about friendship? Are we talking about loyalty? Are we talking
about? Oh no! And just in black terms, the only currency for men is actual money. That's all the hell they have to offer, and that's it.
Actually, money is only.
And that's if they have.
Tina, calm yourself. Calm down, Tina. Take your Ritalin. In any case, you all know you can get a man to do it for you. Jasmine, you got 2 of them.
Actually, my friends, we treat each other like girlfriend, boyfriend. So whatever my man can do for me, my friend can do for me, and they will, and they have. Other than
Thank you. There you go.
things.
Okay, ma'am, you've never had a female pay as much for you or do as much for you as a man. If you have, you're Tina. I mean, you've lived a very rough life if you have.
I have.
Jasmine, we gotta get your game together, ma'am. Might I send you on a weekend with Liz and Ambar? They can go ahead and help you get that taken care of. We wouldn't want to see you turn out like oh yeah, Tina.
Isn't Liz and Ambar single?
Ma'am, they're not. First of all,
Ambar's not single. But isn't Liz single?
Ma'am,
since you want to sing their praises and prove your point so much.
Isn't
Liz single?
She's not as single as you. Why don't you go ahead?
Oh, you have no idea. Actually, sir, I have a man that I'm moving in with in November. I know you think you're funny.
Oh, the rescue mission has freed up that bedroom. That's really good. Glad to hear that. Just glad to see your voucher went through.
You know, not all of us in our late 30s are incapable, Mr. Black. But I'm going to go ahead and shut up now because.
Okay. Well, like I say, definitely miracles still happen out there and, the wonders of Section 8. So with that being the case right there, the bottom line is, ladies, like I say, definitely there's nothing that a woman will do for you that a man isn't going to do 10 times. That's why you all want to get married and you don't want to marry a chick because a woman's not going to buy you a house and let you sit your feet up. Oh, you can't get pregnant and another woman say, don't worry, I'll take care of you, if such a thing could occur. That's not going to occur. So your self-esteem isn't impacted by what other women think because there aren't any real tangibles coming as a result. There's not. What is she going to do? If she's not pleased with you, if she's displeased, what exactly is she going to do? What's she going to take away? What are you going to have to do without because she's unhappy with you?
There's still power in position. So there's power in proximity, to position. And, women can hold these positions of power, so I still think that, not saying that a woman can do all the things that a man can do, right? I see that that's one of your main points here. And I mostly agree with that. But I will say that there are still exchanges that can take place amongst women where we are concerned with their thoughts of us, their perception of us, because it can really impact us. It can have a detrimental impact or it can have a positive impact. There are still benefits out there that can serve us with, that go along with having a good relationship with another woman or having another woman think highly of you, and vice versa. Like there's even in networking, like if I know of a great opportunity for Amber, I know it's not going to work for me, as a true friend, then I would say, oh, you know what? I know somebody, and I may not even fully agree with everything Amber has said or does, but because we've networked, because we're friends, I'm going to drop her name in a room where there's an opportunity for her. And it's important that I think highly of her in order for me to have dropped her name in that scenario, because if not, I would have been like, I'm not putting my name on her. I'm not going to pony her up for this job or whatever, what have you, because I don't have confidence in who she is or how she delivers, or, that I think that actually does say a lot, what other women think of you. It does matter.
Well, Jasmine, there's a fella in the chat room who is offering to be your side dude. I'm going to see if I can get his phone number for you so that he can submit his side dude application. So apparently he's ready to put in the bid. So I'll get that information for you so that we can go ahead and you can add him to your stable is what you can do. You can add him to your stable. Ladies, I started off today's program here talking about the fact that, get them off here, talking about the fact that what happens when a man is not your preferred choice. And I'm going to get into some sticky things here in just a moment, so you've been fairly warned. Ladies, have any of you dealt with a guy deliberately that you knew he was not your preferred choice? He was not your first option. He was the last train leaving, and you got with him. How many of you have done that? 1, 2, 3, or all 4? Okay, by a show of hands, how many of you have gotten with a guy who was not your first choice and he thought he was? So all of you are saying that you have never gotten with a guy who was not your first choice.
May I elaborate on that?
And slow down. All the men y'all have been with here, y'all are going to have me having coughing fits over here. All the men you all have been with have been your first choice. Jasmine, every man you have been with has been your first choice. None of them were some dudes that you circle back to. You ain't circle back to nobody.
I don't circle back.
Okay, forget that then. The fella you talking to, he was not your first choice.
He wasn't my first choice, but he was also not the first man that I dealt with either.
Okay, but I'm saying you've never dealt with a guy who was not your first choice.
No.
You said no?
I can say that I have dealt with that. Like, well, he wasn't my first choice. It's all in vibes.
Okay, so you have dealt with a man who was not your first choice.
He wasn't my first choice, but when you sit down and talk with them, they can't. It's like, okay, well, this is. Oh my God.
Pay no attention to the wildlife. Don't worry about that.
Okay,
In any case,
I have dealt with somebody that was my first choice, but the other part, what did you say? You said something about
well, he was. The real thing is, you've dealt with a man who was not your first choice.
Yes, I have. I'm not gonna lie. I have dealt with a man that wasn't my
Amber. Obviously, in your case, that it's pretty much guaranteed that you had a few dudes who were not your first choice, primarily because there's probably a chick in the picture. So, certainly, have you ever had a man? Just go ahead and validate. You've had dudes you dealt with who were not your first choice.
I think it's hard to kind of say that just because of the years and the times that I've been with the person that I'm with, like with my husband. So I can't really say that I've had enough time anyway to be able to deal with men that weren't my first choice.
What she say? You ain't gonna walk me in divorce court. All right,
Husband,
fine.
we'll come back to that.
No, yes, don't you? Aren't you glad that she can come back to the subject of husband? Don't you wish you could? In any case,
I'm just saying,
Liz, calm down, ma'am. The feed bag is open. Liz, first of all, you're the other Barriqua.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm getting double teamed by the two of y'all here tonight. So
you have such a preference and a bias, but continue.
Yes, ma'am. I have a preference and bias for, people who don't. I'm sorry. I was not going to say what I'm thinking.
For young and light skinned, because you are from the South and you are stereotypical.
Ma'am, just because you are the epitome of femininity, how could anybody turn you down?
I am the epitome of femininity.
You are the epitome of illiterate. Calm down. Liz, so how many men have you dealt with who were not your first choice? And be honest, you're divorced now. You can go ahead and let it all hang out.
Honestly, I haven't dealt with anyone who wasn't a first top choice. I've never dealt with. I honestly would rather stay single. There's more flexibility in that and more freedom in that, and I don't need to settle. And that's where I'm at right now with my life.
I've never heard a more insult to men than I would rather be single, Mr. Black.
Okay. Liz, we're going to let you finish here. Tina, the trough will be open shortly. Calm down.
I'm saying I'd rather be single than settle for someone who's not my first choice or someone that I truly desire. I'm not doing that. And I've never done that. And I'm very much so a relationships type of girl. So like all through high school, I had boyfriends, I got married young. I was married a majority of my 20s. So like, I'm definitely there for the relationships, but I can honestly say that I've never entered a relationship with someone who was not my top choice.
Liz, are you really telling me every man you have dealt with in your life was your first choice?
Dated, as far as like we're together, yes.
Okay. Even since your divorce, even as a newfound single mom, every man you're dealing with now, it was your first choice.
Yes. Someone who I'm actually desiring and wanting to be with. Yes. I have friends, and then friends are friends, right? Boundaries up. We do what friends do. And that's just that. And those are for the men who are not my top choice, right? You know, we can have a relationship. Doesn't mean it has to be sexual, emotional, intimate, a friendship. But again, we're not going to take it into an exclusive relationship.
Okay, well, that's my point right there. Is if he's not if you haven't reached the stage where he's offering any type of benefits, then, like I say, we're just still testing people. That's different. As far as the ones who are you got into a stage where, hey, he'll actually do something for me. Otherwise, why would you be sitting across the table at the restaurant for somebody who wasn't going to do nothing for you? Why would you do that?
I agree.
I'm asking.
Well, I wouldn't. I mean, I feel like, you know, I'm only going to really invest my time into someone who is going to benefit me, and, you know, I can bring some things to their life and their desire for me. You know, there's someone that I look to as someone who can enhance my life, and, you know, maybe vice versa. Like there's definitely some, you know, a draw there, and I wouldn't be wasting my time otherwise. Or there might be a teaching moment, right? They might be wiser, stronger, smarter in some aspects, have wise leadership, something I can learn from them. All of those things factor into, you know, my desire for an individual. But I wouldn't be getting with someone who's not my top choice.
All right, well, let's go ahead and
May I interject, Mr.?
All right, that was the sound there. The signal. Tina can come on back in here. So
I think that sound like the cow heifer noise there. At any rate, I won't pay any mind. You were asking, have we ever basically gotten with someone that was not our first choice? Dealt with, I believe, was your terminology. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only asking you as a formality. We already know the answer, but we might as well.
I know. You just have me up here as being an ornament. I get that.
No, it's called comic relief, but yes, ornament's another good word for it as well. That's good.
All right. Well, whatever floats your boat. Tony, I know you know Tony. He's probably listening right now. Hi, Tony.
I know you know Tony too. At least you used to.
Tony, I still do. Tony just had a birthday. Happy belated birthday, Cancer. At any rate, Tony was not my first choice. Tony is not the only man that I have came across that was not my first choice. But you know what? He became my first choice. Because men can possess a quality of masculinity that catches a woman's attention. Tone is shorter than me. He doesn't have a six-pack, but he has this, and I'm easily mentally stimulated. So he did have this. He does have this. So with that being said, no, Tony or anyone else wasn't my first choice, but Tony has an alpha male in him, and he made it a point to be my first choice. See, women have this quality where we constantly give men a chance, even if it means our heart break, even if it means our wallets breaking. It doesn't matter what it means, because we have all gone there. I'm not going to speak for the other three women, but I promise you,
90% of relationships, 80% of marriages, and 90% of relationships are broken up by the women. That puts the lie.
Sir, no. So you think women are just arbitrarily dumping men and providers?
Yes.
No. No. Women are dumping abusers mentally and physically. Women are dumping deadbeats after they have paid out paycheck after paycheck after paycheck to support that deadbeat. That's what women are dumping. Women are not arbitrarily dumping providers. That is false. It's a farce, and I will not stand for it. And that's all I got to say.
Females today, because marriage is so, not just marriage, relationships, it used to be scandalous and used to be a stigma to be in and out of relationships or run through. Today, you'll have a female with body counts in the triple digits. You'll have a chick who'll sit up here and be fighting men in parking lots and talking about they were abused. You'll have females sitting up here with, she then had 6 abortions and complaining because he actually had a child with another woman. So when you say that women today have licensed, and I'm not here to judge that because you in your situation, you shouldn't have to worry about that at all, Tina. But by the way, women are the ones who end relationships. It's not the men who do it. For you to say that is to say that that 90% of the men are a problem. That's literally mathematically impossible.
I would probably say about 70% of the black men are a problem.
How would you know? You slept with a lot of guys, but it wasn't 70%, I assure you.
No, it wasn't 70%. Thank you very much for giving me that much virtue to know that I haven't slept with 70% of black men. I appreciate that. But it's just it's common sense, and it does come from experience. And I hate to say it, I love black men. Black women, white women, Hispanic women love black men. So that is another thing that drives down the numbers with black men. And we sit up there and we give them chance after chance, and we take excuse after excuse, and we constantly get disappointed every time. But you never hit on that. It's always the woman's fault. And then you claim you're leaning on statistics. Please. A woman does not arbitrarily leave a producer. That is bullcrap.
No, it's because you all think you have an endless supply of them. Liz, tell the truth. You don't actually think that you are limited in the caliber of men that you could be with.
No, I don't believe that. There's no limit.
So you actually, now I don't want to put words in your mouth. You do believe, you seriously, 100% seriously, no smile in your face, you do believe that you are eligible for anything from McDonald's to millionaire.
Yes.
All right. Jasmine, do you believe that there is any upper limit to the caliber and quality of man that you currently qualify for?
No, I feel like I can get any man I want.
Okay. Ambar, pretend that you're not married for a second here. Do you believe there's any upper limit to the caliber or quality of man you could be with?
I think potentially. And the reason why I think that is because I think that some of the things that men that are $1 million makers or that are in the millionaires may want from me, I'm not willing to give up, right? I'm not going to be willing to give up. Like, I don't think I would give up, working and providing for myself and do the things that I do every day. Maybe a man in the millionaires may be like, I want you to stay home and I want you to take care of the kids. So I think for me, I don't think that I have a limit, but I per se wouldn't go for somebody that's there. If I don't feel like I belong in that type of world, if that makes sense.
Okay. Let me ask one last question here in reverse order, because you just answered that, Amber. Jasmine.
Yes.
If you believe that you qualify for any man from McDonald's to millionaire, McDonald's we can probably guess about. As far as Mr. Millionaire, what is it that you have that you know? Because you said definitively, I know I can. What is it that you have that you know qualifies you? What is it that Mr. Millionaire wants that you know that you have?
Well, listening to Amber kind of made me think otherwise. Like she said, millionaires, I'm not going for a lot of stuff. I like to work. I'm not going to not work. A lot of millionaires.
Boy, I'm telling you.
A lot of millionaires think because they got a lot of money, they can do certain things or they can include you in certain things. And I'm not with that. So
you're telling me that if a man told you tomorrow that he's going to take you to go live in St. Croix and he doesn't want you to work, you're going to tell him, nope, I'm going to still sit up here and sniff these chemical fumes and do this hair?
Yes, because I actually love doing hair.
Where's my cap emoji?
That's a passion. I've been doing hair since I was 10 years old. So nobody's going to ever say, hey, I'm going to take care of you and you can't do hair. You can take care of me, but I'm still going to do hair and I'm still going to make my own money.
Why? That literally makes no sense. That makes no mathematical sense whatsoever.
But I think also, I just want to add, I think that when you have a man that's in the millions that is providing, there's a sense of control that they have over you, right? And
why not?
Okay, what is the reality is that I will let the money go not to be controlled.
What is the level of control that would be a problem?
I think like, so me doing what I want to do with my career, me going out with my friends, me doing all the fun things that I like to do just on my own, right? Like, you know, I feel like sometimes I've heard men that especially are in the higher income range where they're like, no, you can't go out and go for a girls' weekend to wherever with your girls because there's going to be men there, right? There's a sense of control that comes from men.
Okay, well, that's one thing. That's one thing if a guy says, well, he doesn't want you out where there's men, so I guess basically he's going to put you in the doghouse. But that's an extreme example. That is not typical of millionaires. I should know.
Yes,
That is not typical. No, it's not. That's typical of the local dope boy. That is not typical of men who got their stuff together because by definition, how you do one thing is how you do all things. He wouldn't have got with you if he was worried that any old guy could pull you. He ain't going to get with you if he's worried about that.
They want to get
definition.
You first. They want to get you first, then they want to control you. Once they got you, that's when they want to control you. But
okay, but they have options. They got a bunch of other females as well. You're not the only option by definition. Why would he be insecure about you if you're not his only option?
Well, millionaires like to control several different females. Like it don't have to just be just one female. They have money, so they can control a lot of females. It don't necessarily have to be just that one. They feel like they have money, they can do whatever they want to do. That's how most millionaires think.
How do you control a grown woman?
You can't control me.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So now we're gonna sweep this on here like Sandman Sims.
I was just speaking for women with low self-esteem.
Jasmine, I want to tell you, if I still had hair, if I wasn't bald-headed, I would come see you. Jasmine, how many certified millionaires have you dated?
I don't want to date millionaires. I can pull a millionaire, but I don't want to date a millionaire.
Thank you. Okay, well, try in one hand and spit in the other, see what feels first. Tina, how many certified millionaires have you dated? I didn't say cleaned up the house for. I said dated. That's a lot. All right, Liz.
2.
2 certified millionaires.
Yes. 1 is currently dating him.
She's currently dating him now.
Yes.
Okay. We'll come back to that at a later date. Amber?
Never. I've never dated a millionaire.
Okay. Well, let me tell you, there's a reason why women fist fight in the street over him. There must be something damn nice going on over there.
Yeah, but I bet you these 4 are fist fighting in the street over them, Mr. Black. Not every woman cares about a man.
Okay, I got 2 left.
Status.
I've got two Bariquas from Brooklyn on this line right now, and one up here who does hair, and then there's Tina. All of y'all done rumbled abroad over a man if he was valuable enough. So just stop the cap. And Tina, you probably facing charges.
I'm not gonna rumble for a millionaire if he's a piece of crap scumbag with no character.
Ma'am,
so
I'm sure
you have me confused with Rosa Parks or somebody. You clearly got the wrong group of women here. From what I can tell,
ma'am, if let me tell you right now, if you wouldn't, you're a damn fool. Wouldn't, because all of y'all have been through. Every woman has been through hardship or trouble over a man. The real question isn't whether you're going to go through hardship or trouble. Which one is worth it? It is
not the scumbag, no matter how much.
It is obscene. Calm down, Tina. You are so triggered right now. I shouldn't bring her around cute ladies. I shouldn't do that because she gets jealous, she gets angry, she gets triggered. It becomes
ugly. The only thing that's triggering me is you purposely putting me on mute and muting me whenever I am silent.
Calm down.
Do not blame it on these beautiful women.
We'll come back to you in just a moment here. Feeding hours have begun. We'll come back to her in a minute. Ladies, it's not a matter of whether you're going to have difficulty or hardship. It's about the man who is worth it. The entire reason for doing this program here tonight is I'm not here to speak for what's best for Ben Affleck. He's got to decide that for himself. He's a grown man. I'm not here to decide what is best for Russell Wilson. He has to decide that for himself. He's a grown man. At the end of the day, even if the choices he's making are not advantageous, he'll be responsible for those choices. That's called adulthood. However, I also know, I don't believe, I know we would benefit so much more as a society if we could have an open and honest dialogue of exactly what it is we want with no bull crap and no filters. It would be a whole lot easier if we could do that. It'd be a whole lot easier if we had a conversation that says women don't choose the second option unless they're out of options. The idea that women don't go back, don't have a second option is like, okay, if all else fails, if I overextended my time in the sexual marketplace casino and all my chips are gone and I'm out of options, that I won't do that, because you will. And I'm not saying there's anything necessarily wrong or bad about that. The only thing I think would be wrong or bad is if people say, no, that's not what happens. Because then we don't have an honest discussion. Because if men actually knew and understood that, they would treat things differently. If they knew, if women just came out and straight up said, yeah, that's the way we roll. We sure do. I'm with you because your cousin wasn't available. I'm with you because your boss wasn't available. Yes, I sure am. So I'm gonna make the best I can of this right here. But yeah, truth be told, yeah, you wasn't my first choice. I sure wouldn't. I think that would be yes, it would be difficult for a lot of people. I understand that. But then you have an open dialogue. Okay, what about me is the problem? Why was I not the first choice? And vice versa. But it's men who encounter that a lot more, because it's women who open the avenues to dating and sex, marriage and commitment and lifelong stuff. Now we hold the keys to that, but that comes much later. You all set the tone from the beginning. And for those of you who have had it so easy, like Amber and Liz and Jasmine, for those of you who've had it so easy, I can understand why you might feel that way. But I think if y'all are honest, you recognize this. Y'all can tell me later and just text me later. Jason, we know you're right, but I couldn't say that on air. So I understand that. Well, ladies, I want to thank you all for joining us here tonight for the program. Thank you for giving your input here. I might bring Tina back up in a moment. It just depends. I'm going to do it without you all here because she's got a lot to say and I don't want her to get in the way. But thank you so much for joining us here tonight, ladies. If you have any last words, you can go ahead and weigh in on that now or bid you a good evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for having me, and nice meeting y'all.
Thank you.
I've heard that exactly once in my life. So thank you very much. We appreciate that, ladies. Well, we're going to go ahead and let them go here. By the way, Tina, are you done with your feedback, Tina? You can unmute yourself. All right.
Am I off punishment?
Ma'am, you know what? I've done you a favor. There's nobody else here now. But guess what? You finally achieved your lifelong dream of being alone with an affluent man. You can check this off your bucket list. I don't know. You got this struggle camera up here that's all grayed out and stuff. So I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Okay, well, you ran in a Boost Mobile minutes apparently. So you might want to contact them and see if they can get that back together for you.
It was doing just fine a minute ago before you exiled me to be damned.
Well, you went from 4G to 2G. You went over your allotment of data. So, it's the flip mobile.
I think it happened when you exiled me.
Yeah, the flip mobile people are doing the best they can right now. But let me tell you, it's hard out there. So it's those Obama phones.
Here we go.
Those Obama phones.
Is that better?
The way they used to.
Is that better, Mr. Black? We know you love looking at me. Is that better?
Okay, now it's all in living gruesome color here. Let me tell you, my life is a struggle, y'all. It is a struggle. All right, Tina. Well, now that I've let the ladies off the line, you're free to babble.
Well, apparently I have nothing left to babble about. But I will say this final thing since you did allow me. Mr. Black, I was thinking about the last program you had featuring Sierra, where you interviewed me and Liz. And basically the question was Sierra wife material? I'll go fast. You asked Sierra, look at that. You had her on. Go, admit it, Mr. Black. She's your screensaver. You like it. She's the screensaver. Anyway, You asked us if she was wife material. And the first thing I said was yes. Why did I say yes? Because she is a wife, which means obviously there is a man that not only likes it, but looks like he loves it. At any rate, I wanted to be clear. Mr. Black, I've been listening to you for almost 2 years. Only reason why I know who you are is because of Tony. And I'm sure he's probably listening. Only reason why I know who you are is because of Tony. And as much as I have this love-hate, and I do mean hate relationship with your program, there is advice that you have given me and that I've heard you give other women that I have actually applied to my own life. And I've seen some positive changes because of that. Like I said, one recently, I do have someone currently. It is an ex, and it is not Tony, but Tony knows because I talked to him before this program. It is an ex that has come back, and he's asked me to move in with him in November.
There you go. Which is basically, y'all, she's going back through the Rolodex of niggas, of fellas to see who answers the phone.
Here we go.
Okay, but it's true. But it's true.
Not. It's not true when you say I went through the Rolodex. What was the What did you ask me earlier? How many hey boos did I get?
Yeah, thank you. The only thing available for you now is hey boo.
Okay, granted, and I will give you that, Mr. Black.
Why do you think that is?
I know that I'm older. I can be loud and talkative, but I have a good heart. I believe that I really work hard at having a good character and being good to people. And I also believe in not being a dingbat, which is why I say I have this love-hate relationship with your program, because you promote this 20-something-year-old getting into a serious relationship with an older man, 20 plus her junior. And I don't agree with that, because a woman in her 20s is just like a man in his 20s. They're not fully all there. And maybe a capable man can mold a woman. Unfortunately, we have capable men in our community. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to put our men down. But it's hard to find those. So what is the point?
It's hard to find them when you're Tina. It sure
Why?
is.
What is it about Tina in her 20s where it's hard to find a capable man?
Because you didn't appreciate them in your 20s.
That is untrue.
As evidenced by your behavior and your choices, you didn't appreciate them then.
That is untrue. Maybe I couldn't recognize every single one of them, because I certainly obviously had plenty of offers in my 20s, and maybe I couldn't recognize every single one of them. That does not mean that I didn't appreciate it then.
But by evidence, by the
I'm in my 20s, and even if I did, the point I'm making is even if I did,
you're still not responsible. Even if you did choose it.
Even if I did choose someone that was capable in my 20s, what do I know about keeping him? Especially if I can barely catch him. All I'm saying is, even back to what we were talking about earlier in this program about a woman's prime, and prime peak, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes, people, women, men, whatever, can mature at different levels in life. And even if
that's got nothing to do with whether or not you will be subject to the consequences of your choices. As a woman, you are given the world on an oyster in your 20s early on. It is very wise if you've had the training and upbringing of somebody to teach you what to do with that. If you don't, that's very unfortunate, but it will not change the situation, because just like a young man, even if he's not raised in the best environment, he goes off and knocks over a liquor store, he goes off and commits a crime, 21 years old or 51 years old, he's going to face the consequences of his actions. Simply saying I was young and wasn't properly trained or whatever, that's not going to save him.
I understand that completely, and I agree with you completely as well. You still have to go through those consequences. I never said that you didn't have to.
Well, that's the whole point. So when you say what was wrong with Tina in her 20s, pretty much what's wrong with Tina in her 30s, actually, is my short answer. But what was wrong with Tina in her 20s? Tina had options and opportunities. And we saw what Tina, when left with all the freedom she had available, we saw which one she chose. Because you had many different options, including I will hold making my order at this time. I'll come back and do this later. You even had that option, but that wasn't the one you chose.
I even had what option, but that wasn't the one I chose.
You had the option of saying, I'm not going to make a selection at all right now. You had the option of doing that too, but that wasn't the one you did.
When would you say I had the option of choosing not making a choice at all? At what point?
Your baby daddy.
I was young. Option. I was without a father figure, and I was looking for affection in males. I don't.
Okay,
and I don't say that is okay, but I'm just stating facts.
And you made a choice, and if the dice come up snake eyes, that doesn't alter. Hey, we're gonna have to hold this.
I have suffered those consequences, so I don't, need necessarily the lecture on that.
But you're the one who asked, what did I do wrong in my 20s? I've explained to you what you did wrong in your 20s there. That's the whole thing about there. And by the way,
that's exactly how I asked it, but I'm well aware of what I've done wrong in my 20s.
You said, what
I said was, why does a 20-something-year-old have to get with a 40-something-year-old when that 20-something-year-old is clearly not mentally ready for a serious relationship?
Okay, first of all, why is she not ready for a serious relationship?
At 22, 23, I've said this again on a previous program, Mr. Black, the brain is not fully developed until 25.
Ma'am, the brain is not, actually the brain continues developing fully into your late 30s. You and I already did this before.
Even more reason why I don't think women in their early 20s need to be settling down and getting married. And I'm speaking from experience. I'm not just babbling.
Women in their early, yes, you are just babbling. Women in their early 20s
I'm speaking from what I know.
Shout out to my man.
Yes, they get married, but how long do those marriages last? I don't care if it is the woman that's asking for the divorce. Who cares? If a 20-year-old woman can't hold a marriage together, Mr. Black, if the woman in her 20s cannot hold a marriage together for the long haul that I know exists, then why is she getting married in her 20s if she's not mentally and ready and she hasn't reached maturity? A lot of women don't reach maturity in their early 20s.
There are women in their early 20s and younger who do it every single day.
Oh my goodness. Can you pull those statistics? You're the number man. You're the numbers guy. Let me see those statistics of how many women under 20 are married and still married. Now don't get me wrong. I know it's possible. I know high school sweethearts.
Then what do they know
that's not the majority. That's not the majority.
No, the majority.
Nowadays, that is not the majority.
The majority are like you, and in their early 20s, do not take it seriously.
So it's women's fault for not taking it seriously.
If you all took the quality of the man you lay down with as seriously as it is, which is a life and death decision, a literal life and death decision, you would choose differently. If you knew, now, if I choose the wrong one, I'm gonna die. You would pick very carefully. At the age of 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 95, you would choose carefully if you knew the wrong choice here will cost me my life.
Well, Mr. Black, I have no choice but to agree with you on that point. Women,
I know you do.
Young women that young do not, I'm sorry. Young women that young do not put that much importance on who they're laying down with.
Exactly. And it's become the culture because you all believe that there is some feminine privilege that you have that will abdicate any responsibility from your actions. Well, if I get pregnant, I can get an abortion. And if I marry no good Nick, then I can get a divorce. And if I don't want to, if I get the wrong job, I can get up and leave and get on welfare. So you all have been told that you've been absolved from adult responsibility from the time you all are 12 years old. You have a bunch of women in the so-called female community telling you all you will not be suffering the consequences of your actions, that there's a solution for everything, including getting pregnant. And that's a damn lie. And instead of you all holding them old biddies who lied to you accountable, you're sitting up here yelling at us. For what? For men being men? There's not one single man that forced any of these things. They took advantage of, you can say that they took advantage of your naivete, but you can't even say that because you can't take advantage of somebody who invited you in.
If a man leaves the home, if a man is absent from the home from his own volition,
if you're not married, you ain't got no home.
Responsibility. If you lay down with a woman unprotected and produced a child,
that's not a home.
Yeah, right. No, I'm talking about responsibility.
I'm talking about responsibility too. A family begins with a man and a woman, not a woman and a bunch of damn kids.
Okay, I feel like you didn't hear or understand me.
I heard everything you said.
Decides to lay down with the woman, knowing the consequences, because you're not going to tell me he just walked in like, duh. Unless an erection is really that powerful, which I'm beginning to understand. Apparently it is. But if a man just walks in and decides, oh, thank you, I think that was a compliment. But if a man decides to lay down with a woman, especially when he knows the consequences, he has responsibilities too. And it just seems as though you are just piling them on the woman. And I certainly don't give a woman who has 10,000, who has 5 kids and 5 baby daddies a pass. Mistakes are made, is what I'm saying.
And that becomes the use all excuse that women have, is that, well, mistakes were made. And the bottom line is, yeah, you make mistakes.
Men make the same excuses.
No. The issue is there's mistakes and then there are choices. You can't say I ordered exactly what I wanted on the menu, but I'm upset over getting exactly.
And as many times as I've been lied to by men, I can definitely tell you they make choices too. Stupid ones.
Tina,
let's not negate that.
You chose the men.
I chose the men.
Thank you. As a woman, you are the one who initiates relationships. You chose the men.
I don't think I initiate relationships. I don't feel that way at all.
By the very definition,
as a matter of fact, I've never felt that way. I've never felt as though
any damn way. You're the one who
initiated a relationship.
Ma'am, that's the way it works. Women initiate relationships. You can't get around that. You're the ones who initiate a relationship. Men desire.
A woman never approaches a man. Like a lady. Like some women approach men, but the majority of women, especially ladies, are approached by the man.
Okay, a male-female relationship begins literally, and we could even if you want to get into it biologically, but socially with the female, because it is the female who has the most to lose. She is the one who is in the most vulnerable position. So when it comes to first encountering someone, she's the one who sets the tone for all things because she is the one in the most vulnerable position. You don't know this man. You don't know where he's from. You're the one who has the most to lose. He can lay up with you and leave. if you get pregnant, you're left with the responsibilities that go on for decades. You have the most to lose. Now, when it comes to marriage, we also understand that the statement I just made true about women must be true because it applies to men in marriage. The man is the one who holds the key to marriage because we're the ones who have the most to lose in a marriage. If we take on this woman, if the children are not actually ours, if she's a financial money pit, if she's irresponsible, if she is unfaithful, if she's dangerous and whacked out, the sex might be great, but everything else is going to be hell. We're financially, morally, legally liable. We're the ones with the most to lose. Therefore, when it comes to marriage, we have to go over all the I's and all the T's because we're the ones most endangered with the most liability and the most to lose. That's the way it works. When it comes to dating and introductions, you all are in charge. When it comes to lifelong marriage and commitment and a bonding together DNA, we're the ones in charge because we will be responsible. If all hell breaks loose, we're going to be the ones that everybody's looking at. Nobody's going to come look into you. No one. Your family, if you tell the family something's wrong, they ain't going to look at you and say, what you going to do about it? They're going to say, what is your husband going to do? And if he doesn't have a good answer, they're going to say, oh, hell, you chose wrong. They're not going to say, well, you got to step up to the plate. That's what's not going to happen. And you know that. That's why women jump in and out of marriages so whimsically now. Because you know the man's going to be the one left holding the bag. Even if the kids aren't biologically his. You get all the benefits and none of the liabilities. Well, guess what? In dating, the men potentially get all the benefits and none of the liabilities. That's why we must take it seriously. Now, when a female is taught and got a father in the home who gives a damn about her, he understands that he is grooming this little girl to be a grown woman. And that one day he is going to hand off, and I'm going to say the damn word, pay attention, Tina. He is going to hand off protection and ownership to another man. That up until when this girl was born, I was her protector and provider. I was the one responsible for her. When she went to school, I'm the one who signs his name on the dotted line and says, I'm legally responsible. If she goes off and raises hell in the neighborhood, I'm the one responsible for that. Because if she goes off and does something and people sue, they ain't going to sue her. They're going to sue me. I'm the one responsible. I'm the one who has to put on life and limb. Mom is a damn fallback position. If that. The father is the one who have to take that. So he understands I got to groom her for a man who's going to take care of this because this girl is carrying my genes. This is going to be my legacy. I ain't going to just hand her off to just any old damn body. He's got to be up to code to at least do what I did. So yes, I'm going to be very careful and she's going to understand exactly what she's looking for. And you damn right, I better approve of him. And you better be scared and afraid if you do not have my approval. If you got my disapproval, you should be so ashamed that it makes you fearful. Because otherwise you do not have respect for him. So as men, we understand I'm handing you off to another man and he's going to take up where I left off at. He is now your protector and provider. He is now responsible for you. He is now going to have to pick up the pieces if something gets broken. He's going to have to be the one who does the heavy lifting because I'm about to exit that picture. He's your protector and provider now. That's why we start this process young. We start you off as children with this because you're going to have to spend the rest of your life making the right choices. I better groom you and indoctrinate you the right way. I better. That doesn't start in your 20s. That starts as a child. We're grooming you for what's going to happen when you get to your 20s. And hopefully you are the kind of female that a responsible, intelligent, capable, competent male desires. That he's like, okay, I've built myself up into this competent, intelligent, decisive, accomplished person here, and I'm willing to take responsibility for your daughter. You step aside. I'll take it from here. I will take on the leadership role. And women want all the benefits, but none of the responsibilities. And your chief responsibility as a woman is the quality of the man you choose. Now, notice I didn't say attracted to. What you're attracted to is up to you. You damn well better put your ego and your narcissism to the side when you're in your early 20s or 30s or later, God forbid, and humble yourself for what you know is best for you. Because if I told you all now for over a decade, if you will not submit to a man's leadership, you will submit to a man's misleadership. If you don't develop a strong chocolate covered ice cream flavored taste for a competent male, then you're going to suffer for the rest of your days. You'll get yourself into a position that our good wishes can't get you out of. And they can argue and they can yell and they can fight and they can protest and they can talk about how much they don't like it, but that doesn't change the reality of it. Now, is it impossible? Well, as I said before, according to Einstein's theory of special relativity, nothing is actually, quote, impossible, but it's going to be damn difficult. And as you get older, it gets harder. Because the real thing is you have to look in the mirror and say, is the man I'm with right now the best I could do? Is he really the best? Because the bottom line is that's going to eat away at you. You're going to try to play tough and try to thug it out. I can stick with this guy right here. Okay, you're going to say that. 2 years later, it's going to wear thin. You're going to be like Ciara. 2 years later, you're going to be like Ciara, shaming this man because he's not actually what you want and never was. That's the problem. So your best opportunity to avoid all this is in your early 20s. God forbid, at the very least, don't make any permanent situations. Babies, STDs, various crap. Avoid that. It would be better for you to enter the sexual marketplace at 35 with no kids, no STDs, hopefully no marriages on your belt. It'd be better to do that than to have all of the above and then talk about I'm going to compete with the 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds because that's really what you're doing. As a woman, you don't desire the company of a 25-year-old male. But the reason is because you're looking for a man to be responsible. You're like, at 25, how responsible is he? What's he going to do for me? He's not ready to take on any burden or any load. So it doesn't matter how attracted you might be to him. You're like, yeah, this ain't going nowhere. What are we going to do when we get out the bed? I'm going to have to get out here and this guy may make things more difficult. And the problem is women wait until they're out of options and then change up on things. Jennifer Lopez sat up here and chased P. Diddy and every damn thing else that was out there. Got herself run through, run by, and run over. And then she waits till she's half a century old. Put your phone down, Tina. Waits until she's half a century. There's the reason you're in the mess you're in right now, by the way. Jennifer Lopez waits until she's half a damn century old to decide that she's going to go ahead and double back. And what in the world she ended up with the fella that she was with here before. You think he's forgotten about that? Do you all think that he's forgotten that he was not her first choice? Do you think he's forgotten that? Do you think he's going to stay inebriated his whole life? You think he's not going to wake up? The worst thing can happen for Jennifer Lopez, for Ben Affleck to get clean and sober. That's the worst thing.
Well, then why did he still choose her?
Because because right now his self-esteem is broken because his substance abuse issues got the better of him. But if he ever gets a handle on that, and if he starts controlling the bottle instead of the bottle controlling him, how is the attitude of the new, improved, and completely clean and sober Ben Affleck gonna respond to the Jennifer Lopez who brought him her run-through self 20 years later?
I would venture to say the same. And the reason why I say that is because Ben Affleck is middle-aged now. I would venture to say over middle-aged Ben Affleck.
Yes,
that means so as a Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Black, for confirming that. So add some more time on top of his middle age. to give him time to get clean and sober. You know what I mean? He's more, now he's Robert De Niro, old, decrepit. And yes, women probably look more so for providers than for looks, but looks don't negate looks. He's still, you know what I mean? Like, so
yeah, but
I
he's
just
also
said that
a
to
bundle
say.
of he's also a bundle of troubles as well. She didn't get with him because he's got his act together. She got with him specifically because he doesn't. That's the dirty little secret that you and the rest of the ladies here, y'all need to stop the dishonesty about that. You know full well she didn't get with him because he's got his act together.
We mentioned his troubles. We mentioned his troubles.
Okay, but what you didn't mention is the fact that y'all talking about, well, she came back to him and maybe they just two broken people got together. No, they're not. There's one broken person and one calculating, scheming woman who sees that the other producers out there who could pay for $80 million house are not available, and she chose the easiest target.
Oh, I talked about Jennifer's past. It looks like she might have been raised by a single mother, and that's just me throwing it out there.
In the here and now, she chose the easiest, most vulnerable target that she could knock down.
Because like you pointed out, what other options does she have? Even when I was in minor, in middle school, high school, even back then, not that long ago, but back then, J-Lo was looked at, it had that joke, that Jamie Foxx joke, J-Ho, because she had so many husbands, you know what I mean? And then I think for me, where I really disconnected from J-Lo was when she got with her background dancer that was younger than her. Like, it was just, okay, at this point, obviously, what are you doing? So that, to me, spells broken, just like Ben Affleck. And that's why I take it back to, okay, well, what about J-Lo's upbringing? Let's,
that's the difference is Ben is dealing with substance abuse issues.
You think that a woman bouncing around, especially going back and getting younger men, you don't think that there are some issues, some mental issues there?
No, those are not substance abuse. She is not inebriated. She's not dealing with substance abuse issues. She's just a scheming party chick trying to get in where she fit in.
A scheming party chick. You don't think she's dealing with you don't think she's dealt with social issues? Because we talk about social issues, right?
That is not the same. You cannot compare a social issue to a substance abuse issue. She got a man who his substance abuse issues destroyed his marriage, severely damaged his career. They took him, uncast him as Batman, specifically because after Justice League, during the reshoots for Justice League.
I didn't know that.
If you go and take, you could learn a lot from a dummy. You could stand and look at this. For those of you who don't know, go and take a look at Justice League, but particularly the Snyder cut of Justice League. Well, not even the Snyder cut. When Joss Whedon came in to take over Justice League from Scott Snyder, Ben Affleck, you can tell the scenes that there were a lot of reshoots. They spent like $60-70 million on reshoots, which is basically they're basically almost refilming the whole damn thing. And when you can tell the reshoots because Ben's hair is a different color, it's slightly different, and he had put on weight from when they had originally filmed him. And then they were like, okay, we need to get him back in shape. He couldn't do it. He was in no condition to be able to do it. And he's admitted himself, he fell off the wagon. And here comes Jennifer Garner. Let me drive him to rehab. He might not be able to get himself there. And I'm not beating up on him. What I'm saying is he's vulnerable. And he got a female from his past who's had previous dealings with him. And she's like, I know exactly the code to punch in to get this guy to drop his defenses. Because I need a ticket on the last train leaving. And Alex Rodriguez denied me. So it's either Ben or I'm hitchhiking. Because ain't nobody else willing to jump up here. P. Diddy made the song 20 years ago. He just wants some attention. He ain't thinking about no damn Jennifer Lopez now. Her backup dancers, please. They just looking for a couch to flop on. Alex Rodriguez, she was never a serious contender for him. The fact that he had Becky sitting right next to her the whole damn time, she's sitting there every day. You gonna let her go yet? You gonna let her go yet? And we see how that turned out. Alex doesn't have Jennifer, but he's still got old girl's phone number. So that tells you where it was really going to go, right, wrong, or otherwise. Jennifer Lopez had 20 years to make a different decision. And we saw what she chose to do. This man is not what she actually wants, but what Jason, what does she actually want? An $85 million house, and she doesn't want to have to pay for it. Now, when that is your requirement, is that I still wish to live in the most expensive parts of California, in the most expensive neighborhoods and the most expensive homes, and I don't want to carry the freight, and I don't want to foot the bill, then that narrows you down to a very short list of candidates. But according to y'all, she had some other priority. At the beginning of the program, you all were sure talking about, well, maybe they just got back together and had mutual interests, and she had a lot of options. No,
now, Mr. Black, you keep saying you all, and I have this thing about being grouped with others. Forgive me. I'm a Leo. My birthday is in a few weeks. The you all, because I don't think I was agreeing with and hanging on the words of the other interviewees. I was not. I was not. Not every single word, Mr. Black. So the you all thing is just kind of, have to forgive me.
Ma'am, the only thing that we need to understand here is that Jennifer Lopez got a ticket to ride on the last train leaving, and that was her only motivation. Okay. She's over the age of 52. She can't swing them butt cheeks no more like she used to. Nobody wants to see her in that tired ass green dress. She's like, where's the exit strategy? And she's figured out an exit. Let me go ahead and get him. Love don't love nobody. His paper is straight, and I can get that. He will finance me and my life from the rest of here on in. If Ciara did it, why in the world can't I do it? So she's held her nose and walked down the aisle with him. Now, was it a practical decision for her? Sure. Good decision for her? Time will tell, but I suppose if you add up her priorities, I guess it checks most of the boxes for her. What about him?
That's a good question. Is this a good situation for men? And if not, why not? If so, why? I ask you, Mr. Black.
You're the one who was saying before, well, they just two lovebirds here and they get along. If you ask me, no. No man can have self-respect knowing that he is some woman's second or third or fifth option. You can't have self-respect knowing that she's thinking about somebody else.
So you don't think that J-Lo truly loves Ben Affleck?
He is the same man that he was 20 years ago. The same one. He's older and more entrenched in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. He's got more paper now than he did 20 years ago. Certainly. Mm-hmm. Those are the only two things that have changed about him. He is fundamentally quantitatively the same man he was then. What's so great about him today that wasn't so objectionable back then?
Well, I can only speak from my frame of reference. And when you put it that way, and like I said, knowing whatever I know about J-Lo specifically, I would say that you make a very good point. I don't see this necessarily as being 100% genuine on J-Lo's part in terms of getting back with Ben Affleck, in terms of your topic, the last train leaving. But you've made it very clear. I guess I'm just trying to understand where your stance and perspective is, Mr. Black, because you've made it clear in the past, in previous programs, a woman is smart to get on the last train leaving.
Absolutely.
Am I wrong?
That's what I just said, is in her case.
So you agree that J-Lo is smart in this regard?
As I said, this works out for her just fine. However,
so she's smart, but is she conniving?
Certainly scheming, calculating. We can throw conniving in if they like, but certainly scheming, calculating. Yeah. If she's not scheming and calculating, she'll do till scheming and calculating gets here. She's had 20 years.
But on your previous programs, you were constantly preaching to older women like myself, oh, that is your last train leaving. You better hop on it. You tell us to hop on it.
And she did. And she did.
So you have no negativity or hostility towards J-Lo.
Do I have negativity and hostility towards her as far as her serving?
hopping on Ben Affleck's train.
As far as her serving her interests, I recognize and understand what she's doing. And she has every right to serve her interests because she didn't steal nothing from him. It wasn't like she busted him over the head with the liquor bottle, but she sure as hell didn't take it from him either so he can make a sober decision. But in any case, no, as far as her serving her interests, I understand it and I respect the game. It is what it is. But that also doesn't mean that I don't acknowledge she running game. Now, I'm looking at it from both sides. The game, she said the chips up on the table, so the game serves her. Okay, great. But by the same, I'm acknowledging that. Just like when I talked to you, when I originally got you on the phone, I'm like, okay, well, your man ain't here, so I got to give you a set of advice to ring this nigga because he's not here. As soon as I got on the phone with him, dude, 180 different advice. But if you're taking it one at a time, Jennifer Lopez, if you're on the phone with me, I say, handcuff this bastard. Whatever you need to do, handcuff him, cut him off from his relatives, flatten the tires on his car. You do whatever you have to do to get him down the aisle because I have it on very good authority. Alex Rodriguez ain't gonna be here in 90 days. I suggest you grab him. You want that $80 million house? This is the last train leaving. There are no young up-and-coming actors, producers, athletes. At her age, you all remember, at her age now, the young athletes in the NBA didn't even know who she was, and a lot of them weren't even born when she was wearing that damn green dress 20 years ago. It's been over 20 years since 9/11 happened. Over 20 years since 9/11. A bunch of these young cats in the music industry, the NBA and professional sports weren't even born. So they don't have any frame of reference from her and Ja Rule and singing with Fat Joe. They don't have any of this. If they have an oldies hip hop station somewhere, they might be able to hear something. J-Lo doesn't matter to them. They don't recognize her. They don't have any nostalgic connection to her. So she can't choose from the crop of young men. And even if she could, if they want to look to start a family, she's already ruled out. So there goes that. And she doesn't want to have any more kids. So she doesn't want some young dude jumping on top of her, sitting up here trying to start a family. She ain't up for that. Even if her giblets still work, which I doubt they do, but even if they did, she's not eligible for that. So she needed to choose a specific niche candidate. He's got to be papered up. He's got to be enamored with me. He's got to ignore all of his other options. And he's got to give me preferential treatment. And he's got to not want to start a family. Even though he's got the ability to get a female half my age and start over, he's got to not want to start a family because I can't. He's got to not want somebody who's young because I'm not. He's going to have to be old enough to even remember me during my heyday. He's got to be papered up out of this damn world because I want an $80 million crib. You just narrowed this down. Basically, you've narrowed this down to Ben Affleck. That's basically what you did. You've reduced the U.S. population down to Ben Affleck. That's it.
I can't speak for J-Lo, Mr. Black.
I can.
You can speak for J-Lo?
I damn sure can. That's why she's married to Ben. I said he's the last train leaving and she better be on it, and she's on it. I predicted she was going to marry.
I can't tell if you're being like overly confident or if you can really speak for J-Lo.
I predicted all of this a year ago. I'm not guessing my way through this. Everybody knows I predicted this a year ago. I predicted that Kim and Kanye were going to get divorced, and I predicted that Ben and Jennifer Lopez, if she could figure out a way, was going to get that. She wasn't trying to date him. She's trying to get him down to
At the end of the day, no matter how no matter how desperate the situation seems, from my perspective, women don't get with men that they don't love. Even if they are getting back with an ex.
What is love?
Love there.
Okay, what is love, Tina? What is it?
That means knowing that you can be with someone and put their needs ahead of your own. Okay, knowing that you can do that. So you can't do that for
did you know
just
what you just described? Okay, everybody, now she just gave one of the more common definitions of love. It's one that I've given. It's one that William Shatner gave in Tech War. When you care about something more than you care about yourself. Very good operating decision to make. Here's the problem. Love is a subjective term. Even though and now that you heard it from me years ago, you are repeating me, adhere to that definition to an extent. The problem is love can be defined as the person saying it means, so long as they are sincere. It doesn't matter how they define it. If they're being sincere, even if their definition is 180 degrees the opposite of yours, that love is caring about yourself more than you care about other people. There are plenty of folks who live that way, operate that way, think that the world's supposed to treat them better than they treat other people. There's plenty of folks who live that way too, by the way, shamelessly. And that they'll call that love too. So the definition that you and I give, there are folks out there who run 180 degrees counter the opposite. Now, does it work out for them? Yikes. But that's what they feel. And you know what? We can't say that they're wrong because it's subjective. It really is. Now, here's the problem. Love don't love nobody. You can call it love, but the definition you just gave is really actually self-interest is what you just gave. You really just gave self-interest, a relationship based on interests. I shouldn't even say necessarily self-interest, but it is a relationship based on interests. That you have an interest in something and they have an interest in it. And that's practical. I don't see anything wrong with that. That's absolutely practical. Marriage shouldn't be based on feelings. Marriage should be based on practical decisions. This man is intelligent, competent, capable, resourceful, admired, respected. That is the safest place for a woman to be. A man.
Can I add one more thing to that list, Mr. Black?
Okay, because you've done so well at it. Sure. What do you want to add?
Personally, for me, and this definitely is, I won't even rank it, but it is a factor on the list. Oh, I think it is important for a woman to be sexually attracted to her man. Sexually attracted, so that a slight amount of that. No.
Yes. Tina, here's the problem. Here's the problem. A man's quote unquote attractiveness is not a decision. That's a feeling.
That's not a feeling.
Yes, it is.
Go with me. Okay, go with me. Okay. All right. Hear me out, right? When a woman is sexually attracted to her man, her whole body and being acquiesces.
Yes,
you understand that?
It's called a feeling.
It's not a feeling.
No, when she's attracted to a man. No, when she's attracted
if you want to call
it
a feeling, even if you call it a feeling, Mr. Black, you cannot just cast it off like it doesn't matter. Because if a woman is not sexually attracted to her man, but he makes all the money and he does all of this, and yeah, she can be mentally stimulated. Now, mental stimulation, I'll put in that category even with sexuality, because that can be sexy. But however, what I'm saying is, even if he's super intelligent, this, that, emotionally in tune, with the woman, and he's a producer, this, that, and the third, if she is not sexually attracted to him, in my opinion, and from my experience, it isn't, I don't like insulting men. So if I feel like I'm not sexually attracted to you, then I cut it off quick. Because I don't want to be insulting to you, acting like I'm sexually attracted to you when I'm really not, and men are sexual creatures.
Ma'am, there are wants and there are needs. The problem with women today,
reproduction is a need.
Calm down, Tina. There are wants and then there are needs. The problem with the female population today and how they operate in society is that they equate their wants to being their needs. And that's why so many women got baby daddies, screwed up in the game, messed up credit.
Sir, I'm sorry. Baby daddies messed up credit is not an explanation. I have no idea what you mean that women equate wants with their needs. That makes no literal sense to me. You haven't explained it.
Calm down, quiet.
I'm really trying to grasp.
Calm down, quiet. A woman might want a man. Tall, dark, handsome. He's physically impressive.
Just like boys want girls.
Calm down, ma'am. A female might want a man who is physically impressive to her other females and gives off those physical alpha traits that are physically impressive. Well, yes, of course, a woman might biologically respond to that. The same way that a man might biologically respond to a female who is built and looking a certain way. This damn sure ain't more like this. the way that men will respond to females who look a certain way. Absolutely.
All the time. And according to your logic, it's how you treat your life partners.
The problem is an adult doesn't make a priority of that. Their attractiveness isn't a deal breaker.
So these beautiful bodies on the screen are not deal breakers. I need this on recording. Where's my recorder? These beautiful bodies on screen are not deal breakers when a man chooses a woman.
When a man chooses a woman, if she isn't built like that, no, that's not necessarily a deal breaker. Case in point, you.
I have you know that I have a sliced Coke bottle figure.
Ma'am, you got a 3-liter bottle figure, but you've got men who've been with you. If they could have had one of these chicks up here, they probably would have, but guess what? It didn't stop them from getting with you. It didn't prevent it.
I don't look like that, but I'm not that, you know. I have a sliced Coke bottle. And back in my heyday, let me tell you something.
Back in the 90s, I understand.
The 90s.
Yeah, yes, back in the 90s there when Portrait was still making albums and H-Town was still beating up the charts. I understand. If you don't mind, part-time lover. In any case, I don't want to get into that. My whole point here is that attractiveness matters. That's great. Attractiveness is a perk. A man is a flipping damn fool and an idiot if he goes into the sexual marketplace and says, I'm bringing back a 10 or nothing, because attractiveness is great, but there's a range. There are things you want and there are things you need. I've had females who had everything from B cups to double G's. Don't ask. In any case, that wasn't what made me be with them or not be with them. And it's damn sure wasn't what made me leave. It damn sure wasn't that. Was it nice? Sure was. You all know about it. Size 6 waist, size 12 rear end. You all heard the story. We're not going to rehash that one here. But as a grown man, you stop making that a priority. You see, when we were in high school and the only thing we expected from a female was sexuality, that was cool back then when I was a boy, when I was a kid. Now I'm a grown-ass man. I expect a female to carry herself a certain way, but she doesn't have to be a quote-unquote dime, whatever this fantasy is I might be carrying around in my head. She doesn't have to conform to that. What she must conform to is complementing my agenda, investing in me emotionally and socially, intellectually, and even spiritually, if you will. She's got to be able to do that. She's got to be sincere, and she's got to acknowledge me as her best option. If she can't do that, then she's worthless.
How important is your sex life with your partner? How important is that?
I think Sigmund Freud said it best. The only unnatural sex is none at all. So
that sounds like pretty high then, huh?
Well, I certainly don't think a sexless relationship is going to last, because other than why would you have someone of the opposite sex around if there's not going to be sexual activity? Why do you got them there? You can have a roommate and have no sexual activity. Why do you got to get married to somebody?
I agree 100%. And to continue agreeing with you, Mr. Black, you're absolutely right. Men have a range. Boys and girls, I think, all have types. But men tend to more have a range and women more have types. But however, I must say that as I've gotten older, not even that much older, honestly, even starting back in my 20s, I no longer had a type. Because I don't look, it's not just about the aesthetic. When I talk about being sexually attracted to someone, that's why I put mental stimulation in that column, because it doesn't have to be based off looks and aesthetic, Mr. Black. That's a farce. That's a Hollywood myth. You know what I mean? It's not just based off aesthetic. However, attraction is very, very real. That is not a myth. And if a woman is not sexually attracted to a man, but that doesn't mean that she's still not inclined to give that man a chance, or give each other a chance to see, you know what, he has these other great attributes let's see if we can make it work. But I know from experience and from seeing it with my own eyes, you know what I mean? There are certain things that are deal breakers, red flags, if you will. Sometimes sexual attraction is that, because if I can't fully give myself to you sexually, which has to do with reproduction, which has to do with your interest, you know, not just your interest in sex, but mine too. If I can't give myself 100% fully to you sexually, a part of me feels like I am doing you an injustice. I'm insulting you. So what I do is I cut the ties quick. Well, at least, you know, when I was younger, when it came to that.
You cannot make his ability to make your body parts quiver be a priority. Where you all get screwed up, if you want to know where you messed up in your 20s, you were going off of animal instinct. So whoever makes me sit up here and buzz and get warm, that must be the one. Because my
you
body
make love
is
sound like a business
that's not
transaction.
love. That's not love. That's physical.
No, just in general. Just in general, you make love sound like a business transaction.
No, it's not. Yeah, it is a transaction. Actually, it is. It's something for something. Yes, it certainly is. Anything else is abuse. And the closer that you get to equity, the stronger and better the relationship is. What you're doing is making the mistake of what women offer men and what men offer women. Understand something. For a man to quote unquote be in shape, a man's got to have muscle tone. Think about that for a few moments. A man got to have muscle tone. A female can sit up here and obviously not have a bunch of muscle tone to her or not have any and still meet the metric of attractiveness. All she's got to do is not be carrying too much weight and will still meet the metric, even if she doesn't have any real discernible muscle tone to her. But it not so for men. The standard for us is always higher. It's always harder. There's always more. It's always 3 or 4 times. The females just have to come in with the absence of fat. Men have to have the absence of fat, plus presence of muscle, and the damn sure presence of resources.
You act as if the absence of fat is something that women can come upon easy, when genetically women have more body fat than men.
Okay, but there's a difference between there's a difference between the default amount that women carry and the default amount men carry. So yes, women naturally carry more, but there's a ratio that you naturally carry. So anything beyond that, you're out of ratio.
And I do believe that some body fat is genetic.
Okay, despite what they told you at the drive-thru at Cookout, Tina, my point is that there's only a default amount that you actually naturally carry. Anything beyond that was the number 4 special, okay?
Hey, listen, never use Cookout to insult me, all right? You leave Cookout out of this. It is an institution, first of all.
I'm certain you're the only customer that they got on speed dial. In any case, the problem is you don't want to have attractiveness be the metric that you use. Does attraction matter? As a perk, sure, because that's something you want. You never saw a woman sit up here and say, damn, my marriage could have been better if this guy had been 6'4". You never saw a woman go to court and file divorce and say, Your Honor, I can't take it anymore. He's not 6'5". That's not on a marriage certificate. She didn't go to her friends. Damn, if only he was 6'4", we could have gotten along. Things would be great.
Without and I made it clear it wasn't just about the aesthetic. It's not just about that.
Attraction is an aesthetic, because the bottom line is that as human beings, we still got the same body parts. Every man has the same body parts in different proportions or sizes. And if there's a certain proportion that lights your fire for you, that's cute. But
Mr. Black, have you ever heard of the phrase?
Not overtalk the host. That is a want, not a need. And when you start confusing and conflating wants and needs, that's the problem. You want him to be 6'4", competent, money straight, resourceful, and willing to sacrifice himself for you. You need him to be competent, resourceful, willing to sacrifice himself for you. Size notwithstanding. Babble.
I on that last point, the only thing, like I said, I have to say is attraction is not just appearance. It's not.
Okay, but that's the major component of it, because that's what starts it for you. By definition, you cannot get introduced to a man.
Yes, I just explained.
Ma'am, by definition, you cannot encounter a man's intellect first in person. You can't do it.
But a man can make you encounter his intellect. I mean,
no,
case
he
in point.
Cannot.
Yes,
no,
he can.
No,
Tony is a prime example. I just explained that Tony wasn't my first choice aesthetically.
Thank you.
I just explained that, but guess what? I fell in love with this man, and had he not initially
accepted your options,
he was false. False, sir. I was in my mid-20s. How dare you?
You had already passed him by. You had already passed him by the layup with another nigga.
No, that's not true.
Yes,
me and Tony became friends. Because I cheated on him in 2013, Mr. Black. I'm so glad you brought it up.
I wouldn't even bring it up.
2013, when I first told you, when Tony brought it up a year and a half ago. And I confirmed that it happened. It was one time. And you tried to railroad me and say, it was recently and I was in my 30s. I was actually in my mid to late 20s, and it was 2013 because I still got the email I sent him to prove it when I confessed. All right. It was one time, and people make mistakes. And that's not because I wasn't attracted to Tony. I am still attracted to Tony, actually. That's not the reason why. That was because we were having other issues in our relationships, and he was not taking care of his responsibilities as a man. Thank you very much.
Okay, the bottom line is, ma'am, you had an opportunity then. Attraction clearly wasn't in the cards. That's the point. For whatever
I don't think you get my point.
I get the point. The attraction was clearly not in the cards. That's the only point I'm making about that. That's all.
Not true.
Attraction is a great perk. Excuse me.
You don't understand what attracts women. Men are visual.
No, ma'am. No.
You don't.
Let's get past that lie. Men are not visual creatures. That's a damn lie that females keep circulating, either because they don't know or don't want to learn any better here. Men are not visual creatures. We're physical creatures. A man doesn't look at a chick with a slim waist, nice hips, cute face, large breasts, and figure to himself is visual. First thing he starts thinking about is what he can do, because that is what we are. We are builders. So we look at what we can do. Where you all get upset is that a woman's physique can motivate a man to do things that a man's physique would never motivate you to do. You've never seen a man's physique that had you immediately getting out of your chair and punching other females in the mouth. You never saw a man who was so fine that you were shoving other people out of the way to talk. Literally, in your case, you might, but you never saw a man who was so cute that you were shoving other females out of the way, literally, to do so.
So then why are you saying that a male's appearance matters to us?
Ma'am, there are men. For men, it is commonplace to have males who will sit up here and assault other males just to get to talk to a female that he's never even spoken to, just to get an opportunity to talk to her. That doesn't happen among females at all. It doesn't occur. Therefore,
we're fighting each other to get to a man?
No, ma'am, where you're fighting each other just to get in the company of a man that none of you have talked to. That's not the way you operate. You wouldn't do that. You would only fight over a man that you've already spoken to. You're not going to fight over a prospect.
But you know what? I've seen women after the man that they never wanted to talk to actually gets booed up by another woman they know. I have seen women go back and say, wait a minute. And then they get that aftershock. Then I have seen women get the aftershock.
Okay, man, but that's not the same thing. We're not talking about no after effect. I'm talking about on your first view of this man, that there are females shoving each other and fighting over him. That's
not ladylike.
Okay.
That's not ladylike.
I know, that's why you should stop doing it. But in any case here with men, it's more commonplace. That's the way that a lot of guys operate. The female appearance does that. And the reason for it isn't because of, quote, the way they look. Without me going into gross detail about it, men have plans for those body parts. That's the difference. She's not a trophy piece. It's not just, she's not here to be put on a mantle and just set up there. Men have plans and intentions for what they're going to do with those body parts. They're not going to just sit there and gaze at them. He's got plans and intentions for it. That's the difference. That's not the way you all see men. Yeah, you like to get booed up with it, but really you all is kind of like a statue thing, which is why it never goes to that extreme with you. For men, it is about having the ability to reproduce with the best, most quality female you can. And what makes a female quality to reproduce with is different. Listen to me, different than what it makes a man quality to reproduce with. For a female, half, if not the majority, is going to be how she physically carries herself, because we are looking to her to be the physical carrier and physical nurturer of our children. We're not looking for her to deal in the abstract. We're looking for her to deal physically, hands-on. And how she grooms herself is how she's going to groom my daughter. How she takes care of herself is how she's going to take care of my kids. How she sees about herself, hopefully, is going to be a very good indicator of how she's going to deal with my offspring. Because this is what she's done with herself in my absence. And likewise, you hope that your woman is healthy and gives off healthy cues. So without getting into too much about this here, full cheeks on both varieties, hair that ain't falling out. Yes, if certain body parts are of a certain proportion, well, that's an indicator. All that indicates to a man is healthy offspring. Why on earth would I sit up here and conquer kingdoms and people are shooting arrows at me and trying to chop my damn head off with a sword? I'm going to pass on my genes to an inadequate vessel. So there's a reason your physical traits matter much more than ours. Much more. This isn't opinion. This is just basic biology. Your physical traits matter much more. If a woman is physically deficient, there goes the bloodline. There it goes. So you damn right. The stakes for you physically at a default are high. And if a man has resources and wishes to pass that on, he's got to choose the right vessel for it. And the vessel isn't just her exterior. Her interior should also be a reflection of it. Hopefully, how she does one thing is how she does all things. Hopefully. Now, is that an absolute numerical certainty? Well, of course it isn't. But there's a reason why it is more practical for men to put a premium on how a woman looks physically and how she carries herself and takes care of herself physically than a woman does with a man. A man with six-pack abs and broke is worthless to you. A man having literally all the character traits that a man looks for in a woman, a man literally having all those things. He's physically built. He's good with the kids. He can have all that. And if he is broke and struggling, he's worthless to you.
Mr. Black, I venture to say no matter how much money a man has, if he's 400 pounds and diabetic or high blood pressure or whatever, is worthless to me, especially a young woman.
Let's take that in a different direction here. Let's just say the guy is not 400 pounds. Go ahead and take any other health condition that you'd like.
Oh my goodness. Any other health condition? Diabetic?
Okay, diabetes is not something that he's in charge of, but diabetes can be managed.
But it can't. Okay.
Diabetes.
I don't want to go too far off into this.
Not too far off. Diabetes can be managed. What else?
There is a man. There is a man that I know that has propositioned me more than once. He's so skinny he looks frail. However, I love his hustling. He's so much of a hustler that he does do well for himself. He doesn't have a whole bunch of kids. He does well for himself, but he is diabetic, but not the 400-pound diabetic. He's so skinny, he looks frail. Looks like I can break him in half, and not because I am 400 pounds, Mr. Black. But It's just that's what I'm saying. And he says, of course, it's mainly because of diabetes. And me and him are friends, but I am not. There's no way. There's no way.
And you
There's
know
no
what?
way.
Okay, here's the thing, Tina. And what you just said is perfectly fine and perfectly practical if you have the options. Because where women screw themselves is at the end of
Obviously, I
the day.
do. Oh,
At
okay,
the end of the day, you are going to have to leave the casino with something, even if it's with empty hands. Now, if you want to keep going back to the roulette table and keep rolling the dice and keep throwing the ball out there and keep playing the blackjack table, if you wish to keep staying at the casino and you say, yeah, I think I can do better than this guy here, you can do that. Just recognize you're taking a risk, because as men, we can stay in the casino much longer than you, because what we're looking for from a female is easier to come across than what, and in more plentiful supply than what you need from a man. Competence is rare. Capability is rare. Female narcissism is common, but capability is rare. A man who is dedicated to resources is rare. An individual who's actually, he gets up every day and he's a self-starter towards improving and upgrading your life, that's rare. And there's no factory that's making them and building them to your specifications so that he can get along with your brain type and your psychology. You have to choose from the males who are out there. You got to choose from what's available. And that's it. You get to choose from what's available. Now, if you choose to leave the casino with nothing, guess what? You just made a choice there too. If you had chips in your hands, you're like, well, I could have got a bigger jackpot. Okay, walk your happy ass back up in there. The reason why you all got a 75% single rate today, it's not accidental. Y'all keep going back into the casino. Well, he wasn't tall enough. He wasn't cute enough. He wouldn't kiss my ass enough. I have conceit issues. Okay, and you keep walking back into the damn casino. And this is how you all are ending up with female communes, which, by the way, is the bottom of the damn barrel. There are two things that are outrageously embarrassing: a woman who's by herself and a woman shacked up with other women. And guess where y'all are today? A sensible woman picks up her chips and leaves the damn casino at her soonest convenience. Gets the man of the highest quality she can as soon as she can, and then says, I'm going to make this damn thing work. Now, that's what your grandmothers and great-grandmothers did. And they were smart and wise. They had men who didn't fight with them over insurance policies, checkbooks, because she was all in. And she didn't sit up here and keep saying, well, let me keep testing my odds. Let me keep testing my numbers. Let me keep testing my odds. She grabbed him and got out the damn casino. The females who did all the crying were the ones who kept going back saying, well, maybe I can get something taller. Maybe I can get something cuter. Maybe I can get some okay. And all of them were aesthetics. The things that they wrote them were aesthetics. Things that cannot be controlled. So they end up with Mr. Tall, dark, handsome, and useless. By the way, Tina, how hard on the eyes was your baby daddy when you met him?
He was absolutely handsome. Every girl in school wanted him.
How'd that work out?
Well, obviously, I am not with my son's father.
Your Honor, I rest my case. Ladies, choose wisely. I suggest you choose from your needs, not your wants. Eventually, time runs out, and the clock is going to make your decisions for you. And that's the worst decision to be in, when the time clock makes your decision for you, when you had every opportunity to make the decision yourself. Hang up the phone, Tina.
Oh, do I not get the last word?
You've had the last word all, okay. You've had the last word all night, Tina. What else do you possibly have to say?
Once again, okay, last thing I'll say, and then I'll leave you. is, Jason, don't give up on us old broads. And I mean that. I went back and I listened to my last interview with Liz concerning Sierra, whether or not she's wife material. And I even discussed it with Tony, of course, to get that male perspective. And I realized how, when it comes to the public and the message, I may have been a little toxic in things that I've said during that interview. I would never promote that. Like I said, I've listened to you for almost 2 years, and as much as I disagree with you, there is some advice that you provided that I've applied. And like I said, I do have someone, and it's looking serious. And he has 2 daughters, one a preteen, one a teenager, and I would never want him to think or feel as though I would not be a good role model for his daughter, especially if we're talking about obviously getting serious. And I would never want there to be an impression that I promote this type of display. I was merely just talking about Sierra as a performer, and like I said, the fact that she is married, but I know that's not the way to get it. Anyway, like I said, don't give up on us old broads.
Well, it's not for me. It's not for me to give up on you. It's not for me to either give up on you or have faith in you. Let me tell you something. It doesn't matter whether Jason Black thinks you're the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. You got to run the ball. You got to make the play. At the end of the day, it comes to that. I've lived long enough that I've got a pretty high percentage rate of accuracy to determine which way it's going to go. But at the end of the day, whether I think the world of you or whether I don't, isn't going to change. That's not going to be the sole determinant of where you end up, no matter what happens. Because I've got some females, not a small minority, because usually when I get behind them, they win. But I've got a small minority that there's nothing you can do for them. But guess what? That was a decision too. Now, I'm not here to tell you you can get everything you want. All I'm here to do is be realistic for you. And it's safe because you're dealing with somebody who doesn't have any sexual desires on you, God forbid, and isn't interested in anything else. That's the difference. But whether you succeed or not is not going to depend on me.
Real question. Do you think this is my last train leaving?
Okay, I haven't even validated there's a train yet. So let me validate there actually is a train, and then maybe I can give you a little bit more insight in that. I will tell you one thing. I would not be looking at the calendar trying to schedule any more tickets. If I were in your shoes, I wouldn't be looking at the calendar trying to schedule any more tickets. I would literally ask that Negro only 2 questions. How much money you make in a day, and how much do you plan to be making in 7 years from now? And if the answers are the same, maybe you might want to go find something else. If the answers are different, hopefully the second one's higher than the first one. And I suggest you grab with both hands and hold on tight. But under no circumstances would I advise you to head back into the casino. Now, why is the money question important there? It's not just because, let me go get some money and go grab and gold dig or anything like that. What I'm saying is, what is the level of effort and investment he's willing to put into you? We already know he's willing to lay up. Okay, we got that. That doesn't cost a man anything. Sex doesn't cost. That's why for a woman, it's a big decision because, hey, this ain't going to cost you nothing, dude. I could be laying up with a fella who could change my life. See, that's the difference for a woman. The man you give sexual access to could change your life. We don't get that. The woman that we lay up with ain't going to change our life the way we could change yours. So that's why it's important. So his work ethic that he does for himself gives you an indicator of what he's going to do for you. His stability, his reliability, his commitment, whether or not he wants to see life continually getting better, and he's willing to focus that commitment towards you as opposed to solely towards himself. That's why that question is important. Not simply for the financial aspect of it, but the physical and social aspect. Because if he's willing to work this much for you and the finances are there, then I already know the physical protection, the social protection, I already know that's there. Because he's invested too much in you. Well, What are you waiting around here for?
Until we meet again, Mr. Black. And as always, thank you for having me.
We have our moments. We do our thing. Everybody pay attention. Believe it or not, there's a little Pepto left in the bottle. Believe it or not, there actually is some left. I was like the rest of you. I was ready to yank out my hair here too. There actually is some Pepto left in the bottle. Imagine that. Shout out to my man B1 Media is the leader. Shout out to him. He sent me a super chat there for some extra Pepto. So thank you very much, brother. We appreciate that. I appreciate your help with that here tonight. Morpheus Neo Trinity. He's a big Matrix fan. We appreciate you laying here tonight. Everybody who's contributed to tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Cash App, thank you very much for your support tonight. We appreciate that. Want to have a good conversation here as well. So I hope we did that as well. Look, it's an opportunity here. It's an opportunity here for you all to see that and to have a real discussion about these kind of things. I do not discuss dating. I could care less about dating. However, when we're discussing power dynamics, particularly between males and females, there's a whole lot here to learn. I want to thank all the ladies who joined us here tonight. Yes, including Tina, Liz, Jasmine, Ambar. Thank you very much for your participation in tonight's program here. Hope you all got a lot out of it. We got some more people who are going to be joining us here soon. Bigger and better things are coming. I'm hoping you all are enjoying the new and improved version of the business. I'm just getting started. I've got even more changes that are coming, more upgrades that are coming here as well. So I hope you get a lot out of this as always. We're going to go ahead and wrap up tonight's program. If you are new to the business, welcome. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and we have our patron coming here at noon tomorrow. Until next time, my brothers and sisters from around the world, this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Business. I'm your host, your brother, humble servant, Mr. Jason Black. And until next time, my brothers and sisters from around the world, remember, handle your business or your business will handle you.